Greetings, mortals, and welcome back to my Magic 6.
So, when last I left off, I wasn't sure if I would be returning to the save file, but I have decided that I should get everything done up to Mist to get some stuff done. I took some notes from the previous stream, which I will hopefully be able to use later to make an interesting video about Garrick's Forge and how to sort of handle Garrick's Forge early on. Excuse me. So, other than that, we are prepared to head on. Oh, I do have one other thing that I need to do, because I have taken this down. I'm going to make some of these potions. So, the two potions that I think are probably most important. Actually, do I want a speed potion or not? Should I close that window? It's fine. It doesn't matter. So I was thinking I might want to do speed, but I think speed potion reduces might or something, so I'm not going to worry about it. So first things first, I do not need these green potions for right now, so I'm just going to move them out of my way. So I need to make the fingers first. So let's go ahead. That's not right. No, that's red plus orange and then red. Okay, so this is Essence of Might. So this gives me 15 Might and subtracts 10 from Intellect, which is a good thing, because who needs Intellect? Certainly not me.
It worked. Success. It worked. It worked.
So what this will do...
Success. It worked. Success.
in practice, is basically sacrifice a little bit of mana on the druids for the sake of a pretty sizable overall boost
It worked.
to our damage output. So that plus 15 to might puts everyone up to 30 as a baseline. So by having the 15, you're now getting to 30, plus with 30 being a pretty sizable damage boost. I don't remember what it is. It's probably like 7 or something like that. So anyway, that will be useful. And, oh, we have quite a few things left, but we don't have... So we need blue, purple, and yellow to make accuracy potions. Do we have enough for everyone? If we don't have enough for everyone, I'm tempted to just not make them. The accuracy potions reduce luck. Is there another thing around here? Okay, first of all, I'm going to turn in all these Cobra eggs, because I just have them sitting in my inventory for no reason. But I need one more red potion to be able to make a full set of accuracy. And if I can make a full set of accuracy and a full set of might, I think that that's going to be very, very valuable.
Good day.
Okay, so 6 of those spent. Let's take a look at our... We have a bad reputation. And what else do we need to do? So purple plus blue plus yellow.
Success. It worked. It worked.
Okay, so that's Essence of Accuracy. Slap that over here for now. So
Success.
purple.
Success. It worked.
Blue.
Success. It worked. Success.
Yellow.
Success. It worked. Success. It worked. Success. It worked.
Okay, so we've now got 3 essence potions, and at some point I can use these resistance potions for something, probably. But we'll see how it goes. So we're going to continue on, I guess. I can get more Widowweep's berries eventually, and then we'll just dump all those. I guess I can check. Actually, now that I think about it, I have an accuracy item. I have this that gives accuracy. So I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to give it to everybody except her. So we now have a baseline of 52 for everybody else. So 30 and then 52 with the thing. The boost. So we need... another blue thing. Is there any red stuff over here? Okay. So I think that we are... done here. We're going to pop over to Castle Iron Fist. I did check, and today is not a day that we can go to Castle Iron Fist via the stable. So we will have to wait on that. I'm actually going to go straight north rather than go along the road so that I can get certain things done immediately. I did not invest into the body magic expertise like I was intending to. And that's fine. We're going to get a dagger expert right now. Getting dagger expert should help us quite a bit. So she's going to have an offhand dagger immediately. That'll be useful.
How are ya?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
And there we go. So we now have expert dagger, and we can just plop one of those in our offhand. And that is useful. Especially because that 4 points that we've got there is actually going to increase our attack rating as well. So... 17 to 25 damage, not too shabby. She does a lot more than this. She actually does 3-4 extras, so 16 to 24. And now we need to get
Good day.
the stuff.
Thank you.
We need to get access to all these guilds. Unfortunately, this game does not have Arco
Looking
Mage
for a
yet.
weapon?
That's what. We're going to pop over here. We're going to grab the horseshoes.
Good day.
So one thing that we also do have is we have we've done less
Good day.
fighting in that
Hello.
other place.
Yes.
So we've got Disarm Expert.
How are ya?
We do not need Fine Blades.
How are ya?
So Expert Swordsmanship is here if we want to invest into it. Don't know what we do.
Mind, the magic of knowledge.
Alright, so everybody has meditation except for her. Cure Paralysis is available. I'm not going to invest into any of that stuff quite yet. The Eye of Mute. I don't think I have paralysis to worry about right now.
How are ya?
I don't think that's a status effect I can be afflicted with this particular
How
moment.
are ya?
Spirit Master.
How are you today?
Some
Thank you.
screenplays.
You're too kind. How are ya?
Let's see, body,
Thank
well.
you.
Okay, so we can now see what things are available. So plus 10 accuracy.
Mind, the magic of the spirit, the magic of life.
So we have Lucky Day. We do have Remove Curse. Unfortunately, Remove Curse.
Body, the magic of healing.
It's going to be a little rough.
Spirit, the magic of life.
We're going to take Remove Curse anyway.
Okay.
The issue is that the person with Remove Curse is also the person who has basically no mana pool. So that's an issue. But that's okay. So let's see. This is the training center. And where is the person who gives us access to this place here? I guess it's got to be someone over here. Do I have... Yes, I do. I have a bunch of weapons that I don't need.
You'll have to sign up first.
Here, have to sign up first.
Looking for a weapon?
I'm looking to sell a weapon.
Come again.
Alright, so I should be able to pick up plate armor, I think. Can I pick up plate here? I actually don't know.
Hi there.
So, we'll see, I guess. But, hopefully we'll be able to make with the
Hi there.
leather.
Hi there. Hello.
That's expert
How are
plate.
you?
That's expert chain. That's interesting. Ouch. Whoa, that is a lot of friends. I was not expecting that this many would be aggroing from this far away. Okay, perfect. So, we still need to find the person who opens up Berserker's Fury. I don't remember where they are. Are they here, maybe? I don't think I went in here.
Hi.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, there we go.
Ready to learn something new?
So we can pick up chain with her. We can pick up shield and plate. We don't need shield. So we can pick up repair item as well. And we cannot pick up mace. When can I pick up mace?
That will be useful. That will be useful.
Interesting. I thought I could pick up mace here. That's unfortunate. That means that I have to wait even longer for mace. She's 50 AC. Holy crap. Oh, that's intense. Okay, so she's got 50 AC now. A little crazy, but that's okay.
Aha.
I'm gonna just identify. Okay, some random scroll. Let's see.
Yes. Yes. There's nothing I can do for you. I don't know.
What else do I need? So that's very unfortunate. It's very, very unfortunate. Oh, hi, friend. So that was weird. That the placement on those guys. They just came over this mountain range, I guess. Huh. Okay, so we've got the ability to heal a bit more. Do I want to unlock the teleporter? What do I want to do? I don't necessarily want to go all the way over through this many. Okay, it looks like they did come from here. Do I want to go after you? Oops. I'm just gonna stand in there like a dang noob. Got
That was too easy.
Mystic ball.
I need help.
Okay. Okay, so take you down.
I need help.
Wow, she is really getting focused hard. On the plus side, we have a shite ton of damage right now. Oh shit. Okay, okay.
That was too easy.
Kill it with fire. Kill it with fire. Or I guess ice, as the case may be.
Got another.
Oh shit. I was not expecting to miss one of these attacks. Okay, so for this first adventure, we have 5,000 EXP to get, which is quite a bit. Do I want... Yes, we need to go in here, talk to this guy up here. That might get us a pretty decent amount of experience, and it'll be a good idea to get in there before they close. I think they're going to close at 5, so we definitely need to learn now. We could go through that teleporter, but I think that going through the teleporter is the wrong way.
Hooga!
Master Nikolai Iron Fist, Prince and heir
Holy
to the
crap.
throne of Enroth.
There's a lot of money. Cha-ching. So, any experience? Yes, we got about 3,000 experience. So, that right there gets us a good portion of the way toward where we need to be. So... This is Lizard Wizard over here. Just waiting for it to climb back down so that I can just burst into it. So this one, Doko. Doko. There you are. So high up. Yeesh. There we go. Okay, so that one's down, and we can now, I guess, go up this way if we want. Do we want to go up this way? Or do I want to go into the next dungeon? I think we want to go into the next dungeon first. Let's clear our way to the dungeon first. Clearing our way to the dungeon will be useful. It's nice to pin them in a corner where they don't run away anymore.
Got it.
And we do have a lot of AC now, so the lizards have a much harder time hurting us now than they did before. I can't believe that somebody has 50 AC. This is crazy. Okay. So all the ones that are rotating counterclockwise will go over to here. Meanwhile, the other ones are going the other direction. And they're going to be directly behind me. So these guys will start moving that direction. Do the kill. Nope, that did not kill. Kill that life. So that one's down. We have you. Go. Okay, that was failure. Failure time.
That was too easy. Got another.
Oh geez, that is a huge pack up there.
Problem.
Okay, I should have cast plus.
Problem.
Okay, we're pulling back. Okay, so oh, did I get her expert? I think I did, right? Yes. So she also has expert. So the two of them are equally capable. Of handling the healing. So there's a mystic over there. Toast.
Got it.
I like this place. This is a nice little cubby hole to take out the Ba fanatics. We got oh, more lizard men. Shit. And Dean. Okay. So I've cleared out a decent portion of this place, and we haven't used that many resources yet, actually. From a resource perspective, we're still doing pretty well. And also, I should pick up some Cure Wounds spells. I need to calculate the... Well, I guess I don't need to calculate anything. I can just go to my drive document to test that. Is it after 6? It is. So never mind. I'm not going to be able to do that till the morning. In the morning, I'll be able to check that. And let's see here. You are in a very solid location for me, however. There you would be if... Okay.
Got him.
There we go. Oh. Excuse you. Okay, so we're just gonna pop back over. We still haven't found another region item. I find it very funny that the first time that I did one of these runs, I only succeeded because of the fact that I got a mono-regen item. And I have never gotten one since. And I have quite a few successful runs under my belt at this point. I wonder if I even would have realized that it was feasible if that first run I hadn't gotten that crutch to use. Because that mono-regen item early really just changed the whole game. Let's see. Hello. Boop. Boop. Get you, get you, get you, get you. But yeah, I need to figure out where I learned mace. Because I thought I could learn mace here, but I can't. I can only play mace.
Got it.
Got it.
Aha! Aha!
Oh, that's a Cure Woods thing. So that will allow us to make the final accuracy potion. Cool beans. So we need a purple.
It worked.
Right? Purple.
Success. It worked.
Blue.
Success. It worked.
Yellow.
Success.
All set. So this thing is running from me. We'll get that when we come back out. And when we're in here, we're gonna need. Oh, hello, friend. Are you running from me? Am I capable of not killing somebody? Huh, that was weird. It was not actually running from me, even though it certainly looked like it was. It was just confused, apparently. Because it attacked me before I attacked it. So it was not in a flee pattern. It's kind of weird. So Dokue, Dokue. If I go in here, then that's going to be really rough. So I think I'm actually going to not go in there yet. And instead spend some more time outside, because there's going to be more time wandering around and less time in direct combat. Because I need to kill time until morning. So if I do that dungeon, I'll use resources very rapidly in game time. Whereas if I'm doing the rest of the exterior exploration, that uses up resources much slower.
I've been expecting you.
Okay, so Shriner Intellect. It's the Intellect month. So we've cleared one of those major points of contention here. Who can curse? Is it mid-tier ghosts that curse? No. Maybe? Do mid-tier ghosts curse as well? They might. I know that some cause fear and some cause aging. I think it's just fear and aging. So I think it's just the skeleton lords that I have to worry about. So skeleton lords cause curse.
Got it.
And I have to deal with those in 2 different dungeons.
I don't know.
Okay, so that is some gauntlets, which we can make a slap on our plate wearer, because our plate wearer is so far behind our chain wearer. And we can now keep going. Keep on keeping on, as they say. And we have another.
Got another. Ha! Got it.
We have another major thing coming up. You know, it didn't even occur to me how similar that person looks to Xena, but you're right. It is absolutely Xena. Xena warrior druid in this context. Fail, 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 fail. Okay, and I was too close to the archers. Reset. There's one lizard man down. Cool. Okay. You did. And we are continuing on. So we've actually got a sizable portion of this outdoor section done
Got him.
already. And we are... We're going to clear all the way to the dwarf dungeon. Yes. Question. Okay, so... That is all set. So we still have a huge number of... We have a huge amount of hiding behind pillars. That's what we've got. So we've got one that's going into the mountains. They're going to come up here. They're probably going to drop down here if I just let them do that. And then we have one set that's going to be coming around in front of me directly. Ouch. Let's just run straight into the arrows. That's my general life strategy. Find an arrow, run into it. You're going to take forever to go anywhere interesting. Let's... Maybe, whoop, nope, oh shoot. There, did not go where I thought it was. Where are you? You're just too high, I can't see you. Okay. Problem. Was not expecting to miss. Okay, there we go. I got you, fam. And... the other one is up in the mountains somewhere, and we've got a mystic behind us, so let's take out the mystic. Okay, so let's not stand in melee and get ourselves ganked by 1,000 followers of Claw. We do have multiple mystics, it sounds like. We have at least 3 mystics, I think. No. Oh, shite. Nope. Nope. Oh, this is bad. Okay, we need to get here. No. Too many ranged targets behind us while we're just sitting practically stationary. Alright, so we are going to jump on you. Clear this pack. Are you running from me?
Got him.
Nope, but you're dead now, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so that's one mystic down. You're not mystics. There you are. Okay. So that's one of them down. We still have at least 2 more. Maybe not. That might have been a follower. Just I think it was. Okay.
Got him.
Nope. Gotcha. Is that another one? I think that was a mistake. I just don't know the difference between red and another color. Okay. So, mission successful. We cleared out a good portion of the outdoors. Unfortunately, we still have a lot of time to go. And the dwarf dungeon is going to be very resource inefficient. I think we need to clear our way to the things. That's a good question. I've probably only actually finished the game maybe like a half a dozen times. Maybe over the course of my life a dozen times. When I was younger, I actually loaned my copy of Might and Magic 6 to a friend. So I played much more Might and Magic 7 than Might and Magic 6 because I loaned a copy to a friend and I only got it back like 15 years later because I went to visit my hometown and, well, the town that I lived in at the time. And he still had it. He still had the copy and he gave it back to me. So it was very amusing. He's like, oh, by the way, you know that game you lent me a million years ago? You can have it back now. Which, oh, hello. Which is great. Oh, no. Okay, so yeah, that was silly. I mean, those things are coming over the mountain, which means that they're gonna have. You know, this is really chill when you're fighting just like a few fanatics that don't have magic spells. The weakest enemies in the game, practically. Let's keep an eye out on these guys in the background. But yeah, I've done a lot of playing of this game. It's just that it wasn't that common until I started streaming for me to actually finish the whole thing, because I would start a new party and do different things. And again, there was like a 15-year period where I didn't play it at all. I've probably beaten Might Magic 7 dozens of times at this point. I love this series. So... But yeah, now I do like ridiculous challenge modes because, you know, it's the only way I can get my fix. Okay, here we go. So, I got you to deal with. Don't like those noises you're making. Okay. So, there's a soul sucker directly behind me, I think. Okay. Luckily, it had not transitioned over to the other thing. I'm going to go ahead and save, because if I get myself diseased, I will be sad. Poison I should be able to cure, though, so poison isn't as big an issue. Well, I mean, I can't right now, but I can in a second. Oh, jeez, nope, forgot about the things behind. No. Everything's fine. Where'd you get the idea it wasn't fine? Let's go, let's go, run. Okay. So, yeah, the particular set of restrictions I have is, I think, down in the description things below. But basically, the way that I run it is, like, no resting, no buying items, except for spell books, obviously. And clearing each area on the first time you enter it, so each, like, world map area needs to be cleared the first time you enter the area. With the exception of Garrick's Forge, which there's a couple of rooms that I have not figured out a way that you can actually clear in there. But I do clear the rest of the rooms of Garrick's Forge, just not the ones that are either behind the locked door, because you can't get behind the locked door, or whatchamacallit. Or the ones that are in these two rooms. Well, there's actually only one room that's the sticking point. There's one room I know an answer to. It's not a great answer, but it is an answer to. But then the other room, there's just no answer to it that I can find. I can't figure out a strategy that actually works to get things to go where I need them to go.
Gotta know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I don't really pause the game either, but I don't really consider that a restriction, because generally speaking I find that the game is, if you're in turn-based mode, you can't kite and do things like that, so I find the game is harder in turn-based mode than it is in real time. Oh, no. Well, I guess the game isn't harder necessarily, because there's less that you can do in terms of interaction. I think there might be a soul sucker on me. Probably not. It's probably it is a soul sucker. Well, there's our first reload of Iron Fist. Life is sad. Life is sad. Oh man, I did not clear it. There's a ton of this. Oh, because I can't purge disease yet. So it basically screws up the whole run if I get diseased. So I shouldn't have let myself get diseased there. That was really silly of me. I had all sorts of options to not have something dumb like that happen. I let that thing get into me. Whoa! Let that thing get into melee range when it should not have gotten into melee range. But yeah, that was just really silly of me. I'm playing sloppy now because I'm out of, like, disease poison central. Yeah, the music is really good in this game. It's too bad it doesn't loop. So you only hear it when you reload. Which is just really sad, because I'd like to hear it all the time instead of only when I reload. So I was pretty sure that there's a soul sucker involved here, considering that it just diseased me. But yeah, soul suckers are terrifying because of the fact that they move so quickly that you can't actually disengage from them and come back. They move the exact same speed as you, so once they get to you, you're already dead. You just don't even realize it. Okay, so that one's toast, and now we've got the soul sucker on us, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that attacking that lizard is what got us close enough to the soul sucker. So, where are you at, fam? There it is. I think it was the one on the right. Here it comes. Luckily, because it is so much faster than the others... Where are you? Okay, I'm really far to the left, really fast. Because it's so much faster than the others... Oh god, there's two. There's another soul sucker, and there's... We gotta use Bless. That's not a soul sucker, that's just a... Whoops. Well, that was a complete waste of a Bless, but oh well. That was... Life is sad, but oh well. Can I just have a spontaneous HP change? I think probably not. Didn't realize how low my HP was. Thanks for the follow, Luna. Who are you? Are you ready to die? Are ready to die. What happens if you wait? That's a good question. I don't think that it matters. Is it once a year? I think it's every year. All of the zones respawn. But in practice, not a lot happens when you take longer. So eventually your characters will get old enough that they start getting really major penalties to all of their stats. But there's no, like, I don't think there's a limit on how old your characters can get. So you'll get a really major penalty to your stats eventually. But aside from that, it just means that you're able to farm all the EXP. Oh god, that is a lot of suckers. So I guess we'll go... Okay, that is a soul sucker. I'm gonna try to just burn it. We have the Bless up still, so... If I can isolate these... Preferably isolate the big ones. Nope. Okay, we have enough AC now that the probability of the non-soul suckers getting an actual hit on us is not that high, I don't think. These are very low-level creatures. Like, even the druids have enough AC at this point. Oh, shit.
That was too
Stop screwing up. Stop playing bad at art. Yeah, I can't play badly indefinitely. Eventually you will get punished for it. Eventually you will get punished if you keep playing like crap. It's just the thing that's gonna happen. I can't believe I got through that without getting diseased again. That was just really dopey of me. It's like diving straight into 1,000 bloodsuckers. There's no problem here. What could possibly go wrong? We're actually going to have almost the entire exterior cleared on day one, which is nice. But yeah, the basic gist of the general the play cycle for the no resting runs is you're looking to maximize your resource usage between rests. And let's see here. I say between rests, so I should explain. So basically, every time you train to level up, you are effectively resting, right? All of your resources are restored. So one of the restrictions that I do have in place is that anytime I train, I have to train the entire party to the maximum level that they can train, because otherwise it just gets too easy. Because if you don't have that restriction set in stone, then you get so much experience that it's like you have so many rests available that you, functionally speaking, have unlimited rests. But trying to use enough, basically you need to get enough experience to level up before you run out of HP and mana on your party. But in addition, you also have to be able to, because I don't allow waiting, you also have to be able to actually be doing things actively until 6 o'clock in the morning when you're actually able to do it. So there's about a 12-hour period where you, whatchamacallit? Here's a question. How do I want to handle this? Do I want to just dive in? That might be my best strategy, actually. Yeah. The dungeons in Might and Magic 6 are very different than the dungeons in the other ones. They're these enormous areas. And some of them are really rough. Like, the werewolf dungeon is extremely painful because the higher tier werewolves are simultaneously very fast and have that instant unconsciousness status effect, which can basically just knock out your whole party in one round of combat. And that's just really rough. And in addition, you don't get the ability, because you don't have protection from magic as a spell, you don't have the ability to get immunity to any of the really nasty status effects like instant death, which is very unfortunate. Like, I would love for there to be, because there's items that give you immunity to certain status effects. If there was an item that gave immunity to curse, immunity to instant death, and immunity to a few other effects like that, that would make my day in this series generally. Because not having to rely on protection from magic, Grand Mastery, would be really nice. It would actually substantially improve the meta for Might and Magic 7. Because in Might and Magic 7, you can't not have a cleric. Because a cleric is... I mean, you can, but if you don't, then you're always going to have a susceptibility to eradication. And so, if you want a party that is not constantly terrified that they're going to be instantly blown apart, then you need that party to contain at least one priest. At least one cleric. There's so much healing in this one. I've forgotten. Okay. Cool. Come back. Come back. There we go. So is that all of them? I mean, it's probably all of them for right now. It's probably not all of them generally. So we have cleared everything in the outdoors except the section around the temple. And this has actually gone much smoother than I was anticipating. And that's great. So if we were to teleport back and then teleport back over, there's still no critters that spawned here. So that place is actually safe for us right now. That's great. So we can now use that instead of using mana to heal with. So once we start going into these other dungeons, we'll be able to get some good efficiency going. Now, everybody's ready to train to level 9. So we're going to go ahead and do that.
Well
Train
done.
to level 9
Well done.
gives me access to Expert Dagger on another party member. I should not have done that. That was really dumb of me. I should have gone to the person over here first. Basically, when you train, it takes a week of time to do so. And that's fine. But every time you train, it's going to reset
Okay.
all of the
Yes.
shops. So you want to
Spirit,
buy anything that you're
magic
going to
of
buy
life.
before it happens. So all set. Okay.
Yes. Mind, the magic of knowledge.
Okay. Did I get cure paralysis? Alright, so you do not have... Oh, you do have Body Magic Expert. Okay, so we're fine.
Okay.
So I don't know when I'm going to start putting points into that, but let's see. You can put another point into Water Magic.
Ah.
And we're rushing Water Magic because when we get to Mist... So one of the attributes of the run is no unnecessary travel, right? So no unnecessary movement between zones. But I can use Town Portal to just teleport around once I've cleared a zone. I can't teleport out of a zone until I've cleared the whole zone. But between finishing zones, I can go around and train at trainers and things like that. I just can't do it over land because that is kind of like a rest. So anyway, as a result, I need to get to 12 Water Magic before I get to Mist for the first time. Boop. Nope. Oh, right. Okay. Yes, I need to actually get her to Expert. So she's got Dagger 4, popping down to train up. And do we want to get Expert in Chain for Silria? No, we have better things to do.
Hello.
Right now. Get Expert Chain, I think.
Okay.
Do we, though? Do we? It's tempting to just get Expert Chain and Expert Shield while I'm here. She doesn't really have a lot of other things to invest in right now. So, do I want to invest in Shield first? This will give me 7 AC if I just train her up to Expert in this. This will reduce my recovery penalty by 15? Is it 20, 30, 40? I don't remember. So this would reduce my recovery penalty. I guess I could just check. So I have 10 from the shield. So it's probably, 110 is probably the baseline, which is 30. So yeah, it's 20, I guess. Oh, it's 10, 20, 30. Right. So that would give me a recovery penalty reduction of 10, which isn't that huge. So I think I'm not going to do that. I think... And the AC bonus isn't amazing, but this is probably the best time in the game to have it because the bonus that I get from it is pretty sizable compared to the penalty. We're just going to do it. And we are, I think, going to get both Chain and Shield here. So I'm just going to put the extra point into Chain as well because that'll give me a little bit of a boost. So Aldrea does not need to put points in any of this crap probably, but I probably need more points in Disarm Trap. The question is, how many points and when do I need to put them in? I think I'm going to put the points into Plate first. I think I can afford to do that. She does not necessarily need the points in Leather. Not yet. Dagger Expert. Okay. We are all set. So Shield Trainer is 2,000. Okay, that's more than I was expecting it to cost. Oh, did I have another set of thing for these people? So do I have anybody who isn't helmed? I do not have anybody who isn't helmed. So I need to figure out where I need to go to get... Oh, do I have 2 sets of... I do. I have 2 sets of horseshoes right now.
I don't know.
I need to get more Identify for her. Alright, well that's fine. So, we did get Expert with you, so you can just go ahead and equip this. That's a pretty nice boost. So she's now in really good shape. So the only person who's going to be craptacular and melee is Nilira, and that's fine. So, do I want to clear some of these inefficient ones first? I need to go do my accuracy training. Get that done. I probably should have done Spirit on Nisali. Because I keep relying on the fact that she starts with Spirit and giving her expertise.
Hello.
It doesn't pay off, I don't think. The Paladins just have too small an MP pool to really play with the spells in the way that I want to do. So, can I just sell all this chain? I guess I could just sell all the chain. I don't
Finest
need that
armor
stuff
in the
anymore.
land.
Don't need the shields. Because I have better shields for everybody. And there we go.
Come back
We
soon.
got 3 grand, which we can use to train an expert shield if I want. Is that what I want to do? Also, I came up here for a reason. I don't remember what reason I came up here, but I'm going to go ahead and say the reason that I came up here was to train that. Oh, you know what I should do before I do anything else? I'm going to train meditation on Aldrea. Meditation will be useful once we get it to expert.
Mind, the magic of knowledge.
Even just 1 point of it is giving her at least 1 extra point of mana. But it's not a huge deal yet. But later it will be a huge deal. Meditation is pretty useful. Okay. No, it's never going to be that huge deal. By the time it becomes really good for her, it'll be a little behind the times, but that's fine. Paladins have a really, really tiny mana pool at the start. 49. 61? Jeez. Alright, do I want to fight the thieves right now? Is this my best option? I don't think I want to fight the thingers. Did I pick up? I didn't pick up an axe in the first town. I didn't actually pick up that skill. Ugh. There are
Doesn't
some
look like a place I'd want to be.
really, really good axes available here because you have the ability to pick up like top tier axes. And you might not get any, but it's very unfortunate to not have access to them. Okay. This is going very smooth. This party is extremely powerful right now. Those black potions are doing work. Throw the switch. And we probably are going to be fine here. So we got a couple peeps down here. Okay, so that's... Get the frames. Lockdown. Okay, that guy did not hit that hard. His damage output was surprisingly low. I was expecting to have those hits actually be really just painful, but I mean, that's how much damage? It's 14 damage. That's not too bad. It's not great, but it's not like it's 30 or anything like that, which is kind of what I was expecting. Oh shit. I wasn't expecting to not kill him. Just gonna chase. Yeah, this is way smoother than I was expecting. I don't even have any buffs out. Who needs buffs? Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Mistakes were made. And they got a steal off. Nope. Stop stealing my shit. Nope. Stop killing my druids. I said stop stealing my shit, not keep stealing my shit. Ooh, God, that hurts so bad. Oh, man. Alright, so before I aggro that guy and potentially cause problems for myself, I'm just going to heal myself back up. Ooh, boy. That was a little rough. Okay. Moving right along. So let's pop back over here, and we will murder you. And that's one more room cleared. We still haven't found any of the top tier rogues yet, so...
Aha!
At some point we will run into those.
I don't know.
A dog hammer.
Aha!
Battle axe. Go to the bucket. And we are set. So let's keep going. Oh, never mind. We're not quite set. Oh, the other thing that I need to check. Let me look at my spreadsheet. This is the wrong spreadsheet. Where my spreadsheet's at? How do I get to there from here? Sheets home. Heal SP efficiency. Okay, so this is not the right thing. It's over here somewhere. It is so Cure Wounds has a 2.6. First Aid has 3.5. So Cure Wounds is not worth using until I get to 9 skill. Holy crap! First Aid is really good. Really? No. 7 skill. I can read. At 7 skill, it's worth using Cure Wounds. Until then, First Aid is better. Oh, that was really... So wait a minute. Okay, there's going to be another... Oh. One of the things that I love is that because the fast ones like move through each other and they're faster, the higher tier enemies are faster than the lower tier enemies. You end up with interesting like situations because you hit them and then that forces them back behind their allies. But then they sort of like the Terminator, they're just coming through faster and faster and faster, and eventually they come to the front again, and then you have to knock them back again. I really enjoy a lot of things about this game.
Aha!
A lot of crappy daggers. Save game. Let's take a look around. Peekaboo. So we've presumably triggered whatever's out there. We've got Dead Thief.
Got another.
Another Dead Thief. Don't like that. I don't like the looks of that at all. We're gonna go ahead and bless. I'm very glad that I blessed. There's 2 of these things. Oh my god! Oh no. No. Mistakes were made. Mistakes were made. I ran into a wall. Oh man. So that is what happens when you get into a pissing contest with rogues, because they hit like trucks. Okay, so there's 2 of them over here. So there's the damage that I was expecting to see in this dungeon. I just had to aggro one of the rogues to see it. Okay, here we go. So just 1 rogue this time. And I'm actually got it pinned in this corner now. I could probably just kill it and just cheese the crap out of it. Oh, never mind. As soon as I hit it, it said, activate D-cheese. Yeah. Okay. None of them came through. I was expecting that one of them would have come through when I went past, but... Hello, friend. So you're down. clown. You are... Oh shit, I screwed up the kite. So the important thing about kiting in this game is that... So, the other thing that I don't allow myself to use bows either, because of course I don't. But the important thing about kiting with melee in this is that once an enemy starts an animation, they can't be interrupted. So you can't interrupt someone's attack animation. But you have longer melee range than the enemies do. So you can hit an enemy while it still can't hit you yet. And if you do hit an enemy before it starts an attack animation, it will do a recoil animation. And when it does a recoil animation, it stops moving. So the way that the kiting works is you're basically trying to activate the recoil animation between when it reaches melee range for you and when it reaches melee range for itself. Or just bury them in a corner and cheese them like I just did there with that poor rogue. And what are you? Purple. Purple liquid. Let's give it to you. White liquid. You know, I wouldn't expect paladins to be unlucky, considering that they're paladins. Like, they're divine entities, and divinity is associated with luck. So it's a little strange, but, you know, I guess it isn't that strange.
Well, don't know.
Do I seriously not have enough space for a scroll? I do. So, empty, empty, white, purple. So this is purple. There's actually 2 whites. So I'll just get this and empty. And where was the... Here it is. There we go. Alright, so we got another one of the top tier brigands. Oh shit. That's not how that's supposed to go. The other thing is that if you miss, either you miss the timing or you miss the attack, then you are not going to actually interrupt them, and bad things happen. Or if you jump forward too quickly, it goes badly. But the other thing is that if you kill the enemy before they finish their attack animation, and the attack animations in this game are extremely long. If you kill the enemy before it finishes its attack animation, it does not get the attack off. So those guys came through the door before I expected the door to be movable. Oh yeah, the dragons in this game look great. They're so iconic. Oh boy, oh boy. Okay. So we are clear? No. So we have more people in this room. Playing this game without Wizard Eye is way more hard. I'm not explicitly like not allowed to use it or anything like that for my run. I just don't have it on because I only have one clear magic skill right now. So it doesn't last very long. It probably would still be worth it. I would probably save more mana in healing by just having that extra bit of vision. But
Got it.
ooh, hello.
Oh. Oh. Aha.
+1 AC for one of the druids.
Aha.
Boom! Look at that. Ooh.
This ought to do.
When did I get this? Oh, I must have gotten this off of one of the other people. Nice. So 29 AC. This area of the game is one of the last areas that armor class is actually remotely relevant. Unfortunately, because the hit formula and accuracy, and AC has significant diminishing returns, you really don't get very much benefit from having armor class past like the midpoint of the game. Both because there are... That's weird. Is there an enemy in here? I don't remember there being enemies in this room. What room did I not open? Oh, I didn't even open this room here. I am a total dope. I just missed this room completely. Oopsie doopsie. But as you get further into the game, simultaneously enemies start using attacks that cannot miss because they are elemental in some way, or because like dragons as an example cannot miss. They don't have a melee attack that they would use that would miss. And the things that even do have an accuracy mechanic, if you stacked hundreds of armor class, you're still only dropping their accuracy by like 50% or something. You're not getting a very good chance of dodging, even with hundreds of armor class, because of the way the mechanics work.
Hey, you!
Hey, you, Sherry! What are you doing here? So we're going to hang out with Sherry for quite a while, because we aren't going to go back to New Sorpigal until we have Town Portal. But we have cleared out another dungeon, and I can't believe I had to do a reload for the Shadow hideout. That's really sad. That's really, really sad that I needed a reload for that, but, you know, it's fine. It's like, there weren't even any rats in there to disease me. But the other thing that's funny is that you have all those poisoning creatures in New Sorpigal, and you don't get poison cure until here, but then here there's nothing that causes poison. Everything still causes disease, but you don't have the ability to cure disease until you get to Freeport. And then by the time you get to Freeport, it's like... Did I call it Freeport? Freehaven. I know the names of the things in this game. Really, I do. So, she's about to level, and it looks like we're going to have to spend the night in the great outdoors. I'm going to go through the teleporter and heal up a little bit. How much HP are we missing? We are missing enough, and enough, and enough, and enough. So, we don't want to waste any of the healing by having somebody with 8 HP missing and healing for 10. So, this time when we went through the portal, unlike last time, there were spawns. I think it might be that enemies spawn every time you like, transition time or something? I'm not entirely clear on how this whole thing functions. Like, this section here confuses the heck out of me. I do not know why it does what it does. So I guess I'll go back through here. No, so they haven't respawned yet. But I do think that if you go down there and don't clear the enemies, it very quickly just escalates out of control because you have so many different spawns that are all there. Because none of them go away, and every time you spawn a new pack, it's just more archers that are just swarming down on you. Yeah, I do not know what the thing is. My guess would be that it's based off of, like, training or resting or, like, a period of time passing. That would be my guess. Now that I've confirmed that it was not doing it before, and then it did when I went in there this time, it's probably just that it's, like, every week a new thing spawns, or every time you rest. Because while training is not technically resting, in many of the mechanical ways, it counts as resting. More than just the fact that it restores your resources, it also... there's certain fountains that refresh not after a period of time, but just any time you rest. which is kind of weird. You'd think that it would be time-based, but it's actually not. So, like, if you were to wait a week just by resting, just waiting until dawn, that will not trigger the fountain to respawn. But if you just sleep for 8 hours, it will. And I did testing with that in New Sorbital. It's kind of a weird dynamic. And training triggers those kind of things. Alright, so we took out that pack. We only have a few dungeons left. Hello, friend. Do I actually want to go into this? I don't want to go into this dungeon yet. But I'm not sure that I want to go into the Dragoon dungeon either. Now that I think about it. The Dragoon dungeon might not be my best option right now. My best option might actually be the dwarves. I'm gonna check. Oh shit, well I guess I can't check them. I was gonna check the Berserker's Fury and see if I could train Axe skill. Because if I could train... I don't think I can though. I think that I missed my opportunity to train Axe. I'm just a dope. I don't know why it didn't occur to me that I needed to train Axe, but I definitely need to train Axe. Like, I have sword. I didn't train spear. I am not doing smart things. Smart things are not me right now. Mistakes were definitely made. So I don't want to go into that dungeon. That dungeon I want to go into later. But what this means is that if I get, like, a Dwarven Axe of Thunderbolts, I'm just going to be sitting on it for the next, like, 3 areas because I can't train Axe skill yet. It's so painful. Why do I forsake me? So we're going to head over here to do something. I don't remember what that something is. You know, this is a problem I need to get resolved. My complete inability to remember things. I was coming to town to do something. No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't. I'm coming to town to go heal myself, but I actually do not need to be in town. I need to be heading to the dwarf mine because I think the dwarf mine, even though I'm not going to be able to actually use the axes, is probably my best bet. Oh, Jesus Christ! Okay, that was hilarious. Where the hell did all these people come from? That was glorious. That was so fun. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't understand this place at all. This place is just confusing. This place is great. I need to figure out how this place works.
Got him.
Because there's a limited number of spawns here, like, technically speaking, well, I actually don't know if there's a limited number of spawns. If there are a limited number of spawns here, technically speaking, I should be killing them all. But I don't even know if there are a limited number of spawns. They just sort of fell out of the sky that time, and it was a different group. That wasn't the same spawn, so it wasn't based off of the same trigger as the other thing. Oh, okay, so this is from me walking out of this place. That I understand. So that I can trigger while I'm here. That's easy. Oh! Did that thing just say keep
Got
off?
another one.
It did. So that thing said keep off when I got onto it. Okay, that's easy enough. So we're in the green again. For now. And we're gonna go back up. Let's save this. And we're just going to start heading toward the dwarf mine. There might be more spawns as we start running around here. I don't know. Yep, there we go. Here we go. So that's one more down. Oh, he hasn't come down. There we go. That's what I'm waiting for. So this guy's going to come across as well. What I don't know is if I trigger all of the trigger points, will those trigger points at some point respawn? Or will those trigger points not respawn? And I just spawned a bunch again. So confused right now. I legitimately do not know what's going on here. Got more enemies spawning. Oh, fail. So yeah, I legitimately do not know what's causing this. I would love to pull open the game data just to like actually identify what on earth is happening with this area. Because there's multiple distinct spawns. There was an actual visual indication when that spawn happened. Like a teleportation indication. And what I don't know is, does it just happen randomly while I'm in this area? See, it just happened again. I was not planning on spending this much time hanging around here, but no. Sometimes what you gotta do is kill all the friends. Oh, Jesus Christ. That was a heavy hit. Heavy hit. Oh, whoops, I should have done this too. Okay, so I'm basically blowing all of the resources that are in here on clearing the area over and over and over again, but I just want to know what's causing it. Just log it in. Is there a finite number of these? I feel like that's a really important question. Is there a finite number of these spawns? Is there a means of identifying whether they are going to respawn?
Got another one.
Is there any logic or reason in this world? How do the thing? Etc. Because yeah, if this is just like an infinite respawning thing, then I should just get out of here. If it's not an infinite respawning thing, it would be nice to fully clear it. So I'm now on my way out again, and there we go. We just triggered this again. It seems to trigger reasonably quickly after I kill them all. And what I'm curious about is if that's just a timing thing, or if it's because I'm going to places that trigger it. Is causing me. What makes this area this area? Because usually when it comes to this kind of stuff, there's like an explicit like square and tile that, like, if you step here, it will trigger enemies. Things like that. So, with this one, it's not explicitly clear what's going on. Because, like, they just spawned again. I think. They did not just spawn again. I just got close to somebody, but no. Unless they're falling out of the sky at me. Ooh. New phone, who dis? Okay, so that's somebody who's outside. That's not one of the people around here. So this time we did not spawn the ones on the interior. I'm not sure why. Like, I'm not sure if I've actually exhausted that resource completely, or if it's something else entirely. I just don't know. I don't know how this whole sequence works. You would really need to dig into the source code to understand some of these mechanics. Honestly, they're just so bizarre sometimes. Because, like, the werewolf things are easy to understand, because it's like if you step on a certain location, then triggers enemies to spawn. That's very comprehensible. I thought it was over here somewhere. I wonder where it is. Maybe on the east side? Oh, well, I'll find it later when I come back this direction. I'm definitely going to be coming back this direction. So now we can finally go into this dungeon over here. We've cleared one of the dungeons. We're going to clear the next one now. Hello, friend. Oh, hello. There's more friends over here. I thought I'd cleared the whole exterior section, but we got more friends to kill. Hello, friend. Hello, friend. And there we go. We got ourselves in the green. Save the game. And let's see if we can take out the dwarf folks. Ooh, yeah. Okay, that is a little concerning. Ooh, other armor. It's probably crap. Yep, that's probably what he dropped.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Aha!
Oh, this would be really, really nice if I had trained spear skill on this character who can use spears and could do, you know, 1d9 plus 9 instead of 2d4 plus 5. You know, we'll just a slight bit of utility there. Just, you know, a little bit. Okay, so this is just going to be me crapping on myself for making silly mistakes all day. I cannot believe I did not train axe skill. I cannot believe I did not train spear skill. Just didn't bother training the skills that are so important. Because you have access to a diverse array of weaponry on paladins, and that's important. The fact that you have access to so many weapons is important. Now, the axe and spear skills are obviously also just, like, superior to things like mace. Well, axe isn't as explicitly superior until you get substantially better skill. But, like, it takes a long time for axes to come into their own. But you also get access to really get axes. Really early. Okay, so these dwarf warriors are not that bad. They probably have the ability to hit like trucks. So coming around these corners blind is going to be a little scary because, of course, I'm not going to cast the thing that I should be casting. Because why would I cast the spell that will protect me from coming around a corner blind into an enemy and getting myself smashed? Because enemies that are not active yet, and thus will not show up on my map, those enemies are going to be slow to respond. I can always come around a corner and... Okay. So, hopefully I can kill this dwarf lord before... Why do I not have bless? Oh my goodness. Okay. Everything's fine. Okay, so we killed a dwarf lord. Everything, it's fine, except for that. No. No, do not get diseased by the vampire bat after killing a dwarf lord and not saving. Okay. Okay, let's save the game. Okay, good point. Okay, now stop playing like crap and start playing good. That's not how you play. That's not how you play good. That's not how you good. You waste all of your attacks on a bat that's already dead. That not good. Okay. Oh, no. Okay. The bat's trying to hit me is bad. The dwarf trying to hit me is fine. Okay. Okay. I had forgotten completely about the bats in here, and bats always scary. They will never stop being scary. That's not true. Once I get Cure Disease, they will stop being scary. But until that point, bats will always be scary. Because, like, from a practical perspective, when I have, like, Cure Disease, I'm going to be killing them so fast that the probability of me getting disease is pretty low. It's just like, oh no, I had to waste 20 mana. My life is over. Okay, that. No. Stop playing that, and you should cast frickin' Bless. Okay, so we now have Bless. No. Please die. Okay. Please also die. Okay, you're also dead. Come on, friend. I know that there's more of you. I know you're right around the corner. There we go. Okay. Okay, we're fine. Charge. Oh, there was nobody here. Okay. I'm surprised so many dwarves are managing to get up that ramp. Thought there were more of them. Did I already kill all the bats? Well, come on. Okay, you're trying to flee me. Anybody else? Okay, so we're just gonna run away from this, and then we're gonna kill it. Oh god! Get wrecked, scrub. Okay, that's what happens when you do stupid things. Oh, yeah, there's not gonna be more dwarves than just the one that I saw. I'm sure it'll be fine. There's not 1,000 of them sitting right there. Oh, that's interesting. So some of these guys can attack me, and some of them cannot. And weirdly enough, the ones that are further away can, and the ones that are closer cannot.
Got another one.
So we're just going to kill these guys from here. Ooh, yeah. Is that all of them? Oh, that's all of them. Alright, so they're all either fleeing or dead. That wasn't too bad. I know that there are bats around here. I know we got bats. So we got some bones here. I seem to recall the bones being good for me. When you see... Nope, this is bad. This is a bad idea.
That's two.
Nope. Bad. Bad strats and bad skills. But good luck, so... Bad strats and bad skills can be made up for with luck. Ding! So we got... what? Empty, empty, empty. Oh, wow. We are getting a lot of empty barrels. 5 poison resistance permanent. 5 magic resistance permanent. Always remember, if you see, like, weird bones just sitting in a mine somewhere, always just rub your hands all over them. Just do it. It's always gonna end. Whoa, whoa, wait, what? Hey, friend, you look pretty fancy there. Hey. I'll go ahead and do this. It's a 19 to 23. Not too shabby. Yeah, always rub your hands all over any random objects you find in dungeons. It's never going to end badly for you. I wonder if you fall off. Will you jump off? They will. And unfortunately, they all jumped off at the same time, which means that I need to disengage. So I'm going to come upstairs. They're not. Alright, so it looks like we're going to have to just be cheesy with these guys. There's not really a good kiting mechanism here. I guess I could try to get them to come out the other way, but that's way too much work. I'm just going to beat them up here. Who asked them to not understand how ramps work? Let's keep muttering away. Where you at, fam? Okay, you know what? I think there's only... Okay, but I know that there's at least one left. Because I just saw the red, so I'm like, okay, there's at least one on my left.
Yes, we got him.
Yes, we got him. And that's a two-handed axe. It's a piece of crap. We don't have to worry about it. So, but fingers crossed for a dwarven axe of darkness spawning. That's what I really want to see, because that's going to make me feel terrible about not having actually gotten the axe skill earlier. It's going to make me feel really great about my long-term prospects, but it's going to make me feel real crap for a little bit. Okay. You are gems. I'm not going to loot you yet. Hello, friend. Okay, that's just fleeing from me. It's no longer fleeing from me. No, here. It is also not going to be fleeing from me. Yeah, Might Magic 6 has pretty unfortunate racial overtones. A lot of the enemy types are actually really problematic. The dwarves, not so much, but the Ba cultists, the cannibals, there's a lot of really bad imagery. I would 100% be on board with a mod that just changes some of the models to be less troubling. Right? If that's all that the mod did, I'd be like, I will always have this mod installed. Gray face and graphic change and nothing else. Unfortunately, such a mod does not exist as far as I am aware. But one thing that on the plus side, at least when you're looking at the actual like portraits of NPCs, just like people around town, there's actually a lot of diversity in just the random people in towns. So there's like a lot of random racial diversity. It's just that like if you look at the models of the characters on the world map, that's
I don't know.
it's not a good look. It's not a good look at all. It's not. Because all of the like on map models are all white for like the random peasants, and then the only humans that you fight as enemies are various other races. It's like ugh. Oh scheiße. You know, I must be thinking of Might Magic 7? Because I thought that there was a dark-skinned female portrait that I'm thinking. I'm gonna check that actually. Give me a second.
It's
You ready?
There's not.
it's too. How about take me?
I'm picking. Come on,
It's
choose
only in
me.
Might Magic 7. Huh. Yeah. Yeah, there's some, you know, trubs. Hello, friends. Please don't kill me before I do. So, this is a great spot for dealing with bats because they will just sort of pile up there. Unfortunately, the bats do not appear to be piling up yet. Look at how many dwarves there are in this room. Okay.
Got it.
So, some of these will occasionally fall off, and of course, there's the risk of the bats appearing from behind. They came from behind. Are you kidding me? I'm just kidding. Hello. Didn't even see that one coming. I'm gonna get diseased by some random bat while I'm trying to clean through all of these dwarves. Yep. There we go. But yeah, at some point one of these is going to fall off. I'm pretty sure I've seen them fall off of this cliff before, and that's when, that's when we have to start kiting them back. That one fell only after it died. So we have more bats that are just chilling back there, apparently trapped. Yeah, that's actually an interesting point, because these do, to me, look like they are like a 3D model of some sort. But they behave as like two... Oh, no! Oh, you know what? This is actually a lot safer. Just stab them through the floor. Ding, 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 ding. We're just gonna do this because, you know. Why wouldn't I want to be super cheesy? I am nothing if not duplicitous. Yeah. I mean, it makes a degree of sense to be able to just, like, stab them through that gap in the floor. And they can't bring an axe to bear through the floor like that. Of course, you know, they could just use the elevator. Ooh, you look pretty shiny.
Aha!
Ooh, a heavy poleaxe. +3 two-handed axe. So I don't think that this group aggroed. It did not. So we are going to say hello. And then we are going to get diseased. Absolutely. We did not get diseased. Yet. Yet. Oh, shoot! That's not where the door is. No, don't get diseased. Don't fail at life. Oh, good, it's running away. Yeah, that was a rough pack. These bats are just so... There's just so many of the high-level bats, and you have to get pretty dang close. What I could have done, and I should have done, this would have been the sensible thing to do, is instead of doing it the way that I did it, I should have pulled forward and noticed I don't have to actually aggro them yet. I could have then backed up onto the elevator, jumped off the elevator forward, and then once the elevator had reached the bottom, that is when I actually go forward, aggro them, jump down into the pit, activate the elevator. Probably isn't going to matter because it won't block them off before they get in. But by doing it that way, I get down here fast enough to have good things happen. So we're not going to drink like tar or oil or whatever the hell that is, because that's not good for you. This one is, I don't think we're gonna have to worry too much. Oh shit, that was closer than I thought. Ooh, that was also closer than I thought. Okay. That's not what I wanted to do, but okay. Where's my ring at?
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, you don't know. I just asked you where it is, and then you saw it, and then you said you don't know. The brilliancies, my amazing gameplay where I just do really stupid things for hours on end because I fail at life. We're actually almost done this time.
Yes, we got him.
Like, we just have this one corridor left. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. Hello. Farewell. Hello. Bonjour. Let's see. Oh, who's copying my moves? You know, I'm sure I should understand what you're talking about, but I fail at remembering all the things. I don't remember what happened 12 seconds ago. Yeah, I always liked chess as a kid. I never... Whoa! I never played it terribly seriously. I guess in part because there wasn't really there wasn't really a mechanism to play it that seriously when I was young. There wasn't any like chess club or anything at my school, I don't think. Even that, I probably wouldn't have joined chess club anyway, just because I didn't join clubs or do things that involved other human beings. Okay, I completely forgot about this switch, so it's a good thing I noticed it due to it being extremely obvious. Those were already aggroed. Okay. Oh boy. Closer than I thought they were, but that's... Oh! No! Got myself trapped like a noob. Oh, life is sad. Don't get yourself trapped like a dang noob. It's not healthy for you. Okay, we killed one. Oh god, they're all on me. Mistakes were made. I'm gonna get diseased.
Someone heal.
Told you! I thought that they had it all aggroed. I'm not playing great. Okay, run away.
Got him. That was too easy.
Let's see. Yeah, I know, right? It's like the swarms of bats in particular, because they're so fast. The bats are just so quick that they really do end up getting just extremely terrifying. I would say probably the only thing more terrifying than the bats is if these were like soul suckers, because the lower tier suckers are like so weak that they're really not that threatening, even when you have the set that I've got. But the highest tier, the soul suckers, move so fast that they probably are legitimately the scariest enemy in the game to like have on you, because I don't think anything else moves as fast as they do. I legitimately think they are the fastest enemy in the game. And they are just so terrifying because you'll be running directly away from them and they just chase. And they're right on your ass. And the second that you stop moving, they're biting you because they are literally right behind you. And yeah, the soul suckers are terrifying. Even if you like just turn, because of the fact that they're going to take a more efficient route than you took, they immediately just leap on you and start biting you again. And of course, they'd use disease, so it's like, ah! Everything goes to hell very quickly. But the issue with them is that you don't actually run into giant swarms of them enough to realize just how terrifying those giant swarms are and can be. Like, if I was fighting in here, like, groups of, like, that was, like, 5 giant bats, if there were soul suckers in packs like that, that would be one of the most horrifying things this game could possibly throw at me. Okay, so that's a significant question. I was just in the yellow right here, so what did I miss? I've clearly missed some enemies somewhere. So we are actually going to cast Wizard Eye, and there we go. I figured that it was probably not an area I hadn't been to, it was probably just an enemy that was wandering around after it had tried to flee from me, and I was accurate. So there we go. So that's toast, we've cleared that out, and we are all set. But yeah, we do still have quite a few scary enemies to get through. Luckily, you have Cure Poison, right? Yes. Cure Poison is not the person that I keep wasting mana on. I should have been blowing mana on Soria instead of her. Mistakes were made. It does. Wizard Eye has the best, like, bar none sound effect of any sound effect in anything, in any medium. There's no medium that has a better sound effect than Wizard Eye. Wizard Eye is just too good. It's the best. Can I get up here from this side? Conveniently. So there's actually a critter over here that's there. I think it'll probably be faster to teleport than it is to run the whole way. I actually really like the weather in this game. That's a pretty ominous, like, skybox there. Alright, so we are going to drink. Because that's how we roll. We should have actually drank on both of these again, but whatever. What time is it? It's now 10:30. We have 10,000 gold pieces at our disposal. We have Expert Body.
The magic of life.
We have Remove Curse, which we need another copy of. No, we're going to buy 3 copies of it. We have 3 people with Spirit Magic.
I don't know.
Oh, this is actually a decent looking axe. I think this is going to be mediocre.
Aha!
Yes, it is.
There's nothing I
It
can
is
do.
thoroughly mediocre. Excellent. Because excellent and mediocre are synonyms. Fun fact.
Yes.
Let's see. It was relatively normal as far as starts go. This was actually a particularly sloppy run on my part. I actually,
Body. The magic of healing.
I actually had to reload probably like 5 or 6 times, maybe even more than that, in New Sorbital, just due to getting myself diseased. So it was a particularly sloppy run. I have changed things slightly, in that I swapped over to a Druid instead of the Paladin for the 4th slot,
Mind. The magic of knowledge.
which I think is going to end up being a more effective strategy. Do I have Cure Paralysis? I do not.
Mind. The magic of knowledge.
Yes.
So I've changed up the strat a little bit in that regard, and then I did a bunch of sloppy dump things, and then I probably at some point did some smart things, but I certainly don't remember that ever happening, and there's certainly no evidence of it. But yeah, I do think that swapping to the Druid has helped a lot. It helps with your throughput early game, and from a practical perspective, I didn't realize
Ready to learn
this until,
something new.
you know... Wait, can I use shields too? They can use shields too. Okay, well, I guess
That
I'll
will
use
be
shield
useful.
skills for the hell of it. Who do I want to give repair to?
That will
Just
be
gonna give repair to
useful.
everybody
That
else,
will
but-
be useful. That will be
I
useful.
don't know who's going to end up using repair,
There's nothing I
and at some point I'm going to be investing the points to give everyone repair, because it's just way too annoying to not have repair on everybody. It's obviously not something to do immediately, but since I do have the money, I might as well. Now, what else do I need? I did not get the expert shield skill. Let's train that up first. So we now have remove curse on multiple people, but those people do not actually have any spirit magic for the most part. So...
Hello, how are you?
Okay.
There we go. So you now have 55 AC. Let's see. But yeah, So the other thing that I did is I actually kind of solidified a strategy for Garrick's Forge, and I'm going to be trying to make a
Good day.
I'm going to be trying to make a video sometime in the near future where I just go in at level 1 and demonstrate the mechanisms by which you lock the enemies in place and take them out. Because for, I think, pretty much every room, except for the 2 rooms that were always troublesome, that had, like, the boxes in them that the wizards get trapped on, outside of those 2 rooms, I have, I think, a very coherent and cohesive strategy that will work 100% of the time for every other room now, which is nice. Hey, Skaldska. Let's see. And we are going to... I think we're just going to keep going. I'm amazed that we haven't had to use more or less. But I guess that's just because I don't bother doing smart things. Let's see. I'm going to clear these. I'm tempted to not clear these yet, because it's going to take a bit of time. But I should clear these ones.
That's too easy.
RP kidnappers.
Got it?
That sounds like a great strategy.
You'll drop it.
Or even better, actually. Another way to do it, and this other idea works really great with the blow up the world instead strat that you were suggesting, because it turns out that you do the same thing that you just described, only instead of it RPing as either kidnapping her or taking her on an adventure, instead she's one of those, you know, creepy Japanese horror girls who has mind control powers, and she mind controls your party when she gets taken into the temple and gets lost. She sort of mind controls your party and then says, hey, you know, now that I've got these people, I could do all sorts of crazy shit, inevitably leading to the destruction of the entire world. But your party, you're not actually playing as your party. There's only one of you, and it's Angela. And Angela's just playing the rest of your party like puppets the whole time. Like, that to me sounds like a very fun way to handle it. Because there is, you know, there's only one central controller for all 4 of these characters, and it just makes sense for it to be that little girl you pick up in the beginning of the game. Particularly if the way that you handle it, because I'm not sure, but I think you probably can pick up Angela without having talked to her mother. And so it works really well if you are sort of just drawn into the temple by Angela and you never talk to her mother because you are not allowed to. Angela won't let you talk to her mother. The only issue with that is that then you don't get access to which one is it? The Elemental Guild, but that's not a huge deal in the early game to lose access to the Elemental Guild. So that could be a lot of fun though. Yeah, I always have to take every idea and turn it like 16 shades darker and more like creepy and weird, because that's just how I roll. But it would be fun for Angela, not for the party. Okay. So, still don't know what was triggering that. It hasn't triggered again, so I don't know. But we have established that it's not based off of resting, because we haven't been resting. Man, this looks so great as like a stormy day. It's great. And it never actually rains, because that's way too much work, but you can still do cool weather effects with a skybox. It's just dark and ominous occasionally. Oh yeah? Like a Pied Piper thing? Because is the flute the one that does not actually have a purpose? Like it's just a random item that you can pick up, but it doesn't actually do anything? Yeah. So that would be a lot of fun. Okay, you know, after playing, I don't even remember which mod it was, but after playing one of those mods, I think it was the Chaos Conspiracy, and having this central room just full of horrifying monstrosities, it's really funny to come in here and not have anything just in my face. Every time I come in here, I like have PTSD about the whole thing. I'm just like, I'm gonna die. Oh, no, there's nothing in here. That is true. It does make music. So there's just like some random person who's just joining the party to get a flute. But they're joining the party to get the flute because murder. Oh, that's okay. This is not a great throw. I got nothing came out of it. Nice. Yeah, I haven't read any fanfics in a long time. Like, it was... I don't think I've read any in a long time. Oh, shit. I was not even looking at the screen. That's not a great way to kite. Oh, shit, that's not good. Let's randomly heal people who are not even particularly injured. Alright, so I think we have enough HP now. Oh, no! No, don't fail at life! Okay, good. That's great. How long is it? Probably not terribly long. Yeah, I was gonna say, if it's just like someone joining for one dungeon. It's only a few paragraphs? Oh, that's really short. I was thinking it would be like a few pages long. Here's a serious question. Do I want to train, or do I want to spend the night? I think I should go train. I'm gonna go train. We are very close to 6 o'clock, and if I don't train now, it's gonna be not great for me. Because if I don't train now, I'm gonna have to go through this whole dungeon, and then probably another whole dungeon before I can stop. So we're gonna go train. It's gonna be great. I have so many resources. Oh man, I'm so happy with this party. Just look at how much mana we've spent so far to get you an idea of like if we were on Paladin, if we had all Paladins, and we'd just not have any things left.
Hey,
We'd
look
be out of
at-
resources
well
already.
Done. Well done.
Oh, she can level twice? Oh, shiza. We're getting close. Okay, so she's got expert dagger. Does she have anything else that she needs to get expert in? It actually is tempting to put some points into spirit. She can't get expert in it yet. Is there anything important that we couldn't identify? There isn't, right? There's not. So I want her to pick up Chain Expert to give me the extra 10 recovery. I think I do. I'm just gonna pick up Chain Expert. She's got Dagger Expert already. Oh! Is there a repair item expert here? Alright, before I pump spirit, I'm actually gonna get repaired point breaking by an expert. Because that's just a good idea. Okay, so you are set, you are not set. What do you need to put points into? I guess I could just put the points into meditation for the next sleep cycle. Because at some point I'll be able to get expert meditation. I don't remember where the second one is. It's probably in like Silver Cove or something ridiculous like that. But there's disarm here, identify here. But is there a repair here? I don't think so. This is like
Good day.
no, this is sorry. This is identify.
Good day.
And don't go away. Yeah, this isn't too bad. 15. 18. So we can cast 7 blesses, basically. So how far do we have to go to get you a ton, right? Yeah, 8,000. Close to 9,000 EXP. I should be able to get that just by clearing this one dungeon, because I'll have a quest to turn in once I do this. So this should work fine for me. I was very confused by this area because, like, you're given a quest in this zone to, like, rescue, like, a woman from captivity. Just any woman randomly from captivity. And Sherry just randomly doesn't count because she's for a different quest. And so I think the first time that I played this, like, I got very confused because there's actually also another woman that you rescue who also doesn't count. So you can actually end up with, because I'm pretty sure that, I'm trying to remember, I think it's the woman in the Silver Helm Stronghold that does count. It's a good question. She's in distress, but what does the word damsel even mean? Is damsel a technical term? A young, unmarried woman. So damsel is basically... It is, I guess, a technical term. So I guess once a woman is married, I don't have to rescue her anymore. Like, it just doesn't count anymore. Well, one of the other women that doesn't count is also very young, right? It's definitely the correct age category, right? Because I think there's 3 women that you rescue, right? And I'm pretty sure the other one is quite young, but I'm not positive. I don't even remember where she is, so I could even just be imagining people. I just remember, like, having, like, 3 random women hanging out with me because it takes so long before I end up actually returning anyone to their families. Yeah, the Snake Temple. I was thinking there was one in the Snake Temple, but I wasn't positive, so I wasn't gonna say anything. Okay, so that is how you do maximum cheese. Just jump straight over their heads, and then fight them from the other side of the thing. Maximum cheese power activate. Let's see. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, we got oozes around here somewhere. Hey, friends. Do we want to do maximum cheese just for the hell of it? Okay, we're gonna activate cheese. It's not maximum cheese because we did actually kite them all the way to here, which took a bit of work, but cheese nonetheless. Where's my berries? I'm like, I know there's a third one that didn't come in. Where are you at, fam? I got you. Do you rescue any men in this game? I can't think of any men that you rescue. Oh yeah, you do. You do. That one woman in but do you actually rescue him? I don't remember if you actually rescue him or not. Now that I think about it, I cannot recall. Yeah, I'm not counting kids, right? But there's the guy who you're getting back from the for the woman in Blackshire, right? So her husband has been like kidnapped by the Medusas. So there's that guy. But other than that, I can't think of any that you actually get. By the way, I have a whoops. Wait, seriously? Did I just get myself poisoned like a dang noob? Life is sad. Life is sad, and then you get poisoned. Okay, so we're in the correct position, so we will eventually get this done. But I don't remember if you actually get that. One thing that's really interesting, if you actually are paying attention to the whole damseling thing, narratives go out of their way, like if you look at like most media, to never have a woman rescue a man. Like they go really far out of their way. So even in scenes where you would on its face it looks like a woman is rescuing a man, what you'll find is that the woman will go to the man and then give the man the means to rescue himself. If that makes any sense? So like there's a scene in Stranger Things where a man is damseled, right? And the whole scene where he's being rescued is basically the woman handing him a knife, which he then uses to free himself and rescue her. So somehow he gets damseled, but it's still him rescuing her. And it's really interesting because it's so consistent in media that you have this weird thing where, like, you might like help a guy out at some point, right? And a guy might get in a position where he needs saving, but the framing on that saving is always different than it is for the way that you save a woman in media. And it's just super interesting. Yeah, it's just really interesting to me how, like, for whatever reason, they feel like they can't have, like, a man legitimately need to be rescued. Oh, jeez. In their narratives. So they end up with this weird, like, pseudo-rescue thing happen. A Daniel in distress. Indeed. So it's just a very interesting dynamic where it's like it's one of those things where it's easy to, like, a lot of, like, people will say, like, oh, you're being oversensitive about certain things, right? When it comes to like really popular trends and tropes in media and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, well, you know, like, what's wrong with damseling, right? Like, as a mechanical concept, it makes sense for the plot to have characters get damseled, and it does. It makes perfect sense for characters to get damseled. But the interesting thing, and the thing that's insidious and bizarre, is that when you in the very rare cases that you actually damsel a male character, the narrative never treats it the same way that it treats a woman who's damseled. And so you have these characters who are, like, you know, very, like, mechanically speaking in the setting, these are supposed to be, like, very strong, powerful fighters who happen to be women. And they'll get damseled and put in a dress and put in, like, the most, like, ridiculous, like, feminine, you know, like, nonsense. And then you have a male complete loser who gets, like, computer programmer who gets damseled, and then he has to rescue himself because he's a man. So you'll have, like, these, like, this ubermensch warrior princess rescue him, but then the way that she rescues him is she gives him a knife to cut himself free, kind of thing. Like, that kind of thing is so common that it's, like, it's just remarkable to me. But what's interesting is I don't know that actually caters toward mainstream desires in any real way, right? A lot of the stuff that people do when it comes to media sort of demonstrably does not. Media companies have shown over the years that they are very bad at judging what people actually want, right? Like, let's be clear here. Media companies are terrible at judging what people want because they're not very connected with what the way that people actually behave. So they work off of these, like, kind of ludicrous stereotypes, and they work off of, like, whatchamacallit? Like, they work off of, like, test screenings and all sorts of other, you know, random stuff that, on, you know, hypothetically could be useful some of the time, but, like, do not really represent the way that people actually interact with media and what makes media interesting and useful. So, because, like, someone's hot take in a controlled testing environment is not the same as what the, like, actual like, social response is going to be to the community at large when they see a thing, right? And there's been several really major franchises that test audiences were just completely disinterested in, right? And it's just because the test audience, like, concept is only marginally useful, right? So I do think that media companies are generally very bad at judging what people want, whether those are game companies or like movies and TV shows and stuff like that. And some of it comes down to not trying to appeal to like the actual audience. Some of it comes down to trying to appeal to advertisers. And you might think that that shouldn't be a major problem in movies, but movies have huge advertising elements to them, right? Like, movies now make a very respectable portion of their income from their advertising. And advertisers are not like normal human beings. They do not, like, represent the way that society thinks in any way, shape, or form. So, like, when you see the way that, like, YouTube has started catering toward advertisers instead of catering toward their actual audience, like, people in the real world, for the most part, do not care if you know, drop a swear word in a sentence, right? There are some people who care, right? But for the most part, people do not care. What people do care about is when you are, you know, nasty and mean to people, right? Which has nothing to do with, you know, curse words and stuff like that. That's not what they're used for. So it's kind of interesting how, like, if you look at YouTube doesn't seem to have too much of a problem with people being, you know, hateful and, like, disgusting toward other human beings. But they have a huge problem with you dropping swear words. Like, oh, well, you can't drop swear words or you'll get demonetized. But, you know, we can drop some, you know, very clear, like, racist propaganda, and that's fine as long as you don't swear while you're doing it, right? And it's like, that's not mainstream. That's not really the way that people think in the mainstream. And that hasn't been mainstream for quite a long time, right? And so you do end up with some interesting dynamics when it comes to media where people think that things are good ideas when they're really not, right? And they try to cater toward a group because they're loud, but loud groups are not the same things as, like, groups that are actually popular and groups that actually have a lot of people in them, right? Like, if you look at the WoW forums as a perfect example, like, one of the most, like, important elements that Blizzard has had to figure out over the years is, oh, so we should just not at all listen to what anyone in the forums says about anything, because the forums are populated almost exclusively by crazy people who have like some sort of weird agenda of some sort, because that's the only people who are going to be commenting on your forums, is people who have very extreme beliefs of one kind or another.
I don't know.
Oh, nice. That is actually really solid.
I don't
As,
know.
like, our first enchanted ring, we get immunity to sleep. That's really good. That's going to be very particularly useful in certain dungeons later on. Okay, I need to reorganize my stuff a bit. Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like, you know, Hollywood and, you know, places like that really try their hardest to, like, appeal to, like, the everyday American blah blah blah, but I don't think they're actually very good at it. They don't seem to actually get it right most of the time. And the things that, like, media companies think are, like, clearly going to be a smash hit are the most likely ones to just be a total flop because nobody finds it interesting, because it's just so safe and it's not interesting as a piece of media. And the things that they don't think are going to be terribly controversial at all tend to be the ones that people go, you just said what now? You just did the what now? That's not acceptable. This is 2002. You can't say that in 2002. What do you think this is? The 1980s? So I do think that because people are so bad at actually gauging what, you know, the mainstream desires are, they do have all these weird elements to them that are just like, yeah, I don't think that people would really care that much if you damseled a guy. I don't think that they would actually give a crap. I'm sure they'd be fine. But you also have to, I guess to a degree, another portion of that is having to deal with like the egos of the actors as well, and the agents, because it's entirely possible that the actor or their agent will say, "Oh, you can't damsel Robert Downey Jr. That's unacceptable.
No.
If you damsel him, he'll never work in Hollywood ever again." It's like, that seems marginally ridiculous. Are you sure on this? That doesn't sound right. It's like, absolutely. Absolutely. It'd be completely demeaning. It's like, oh, but, I mean, it happens to, like, Michelle Rodriguez all the time, and she's way more of a, like, typecast badass than Robert Downey Jr. is. Doesn't matter. He's a man. It's unacceptable. So I do think that, like, actor contracts and things like that have an effect as well on that kind of dynamic. But it's hard to say how much people actually like things and how much people actually care about things, because nobody is really willing to challenge it very much. Like, people just don't... People don't challenge the mainstream thought about, X thing. Like, oh, well, if you damsel the leading man and don't have him somehow take the agency back during the scene. Because at its core, the thing that damseling is, right? Like, this is what damseling is as a mechanic, is it's taking agency away from a character and having other characters responsible for them in their entirety. That's the thing that damseling really is such and such character no longer has any agency as what's going on. And since they don't have any agency in what's going on, that has substantial effects on them. And media is very happy to have female characters have their agency revoked, even when it's not explicitly like a kidnapping or anything like that. Like, female characters have their agency revoked all the time. But male characters having their agency revoked is a big deal. And it's weird that that is the case, considering that if you look at stories and narratives, taking away someone's agency is... I mean, that's a very common thing. That's something that should be happening kind of all the time, but people have to be very careful when they do it to a man, Yeah, well, I mean, I make an attempt to pay attention. Like, I try to pay attention to what's going on, and it actually, in some ways, it makes it very difficult to watch a lot of stuff, because you just see the weird, like, bits, right? You see all the weird fiddly bits, and you're like, I see you going out of your way to give this male character agency in a way that you never would if this was a female character, just because you feel like a male character can't have their agency revoked. And you see it in, like, these very subtle ways that the framing of the scene happens, right? And you see stuff like with, like, the new It movie. Like, the new It movie. Actually, I say the new one, but I'm actually talking about part 1. I didn't see part 2. Because part 1 disappointed me so much. But, like, you see the framing on part 1 of this new It series. And it's like, so why is it that the villain, Henry Bowers, is no longer a racist, but the framing of the narrative is? Like, the narrative itself is now racist in a way that Henry Bowers used to be, but isn't anymore, right? So, like, if you look at a lot of the things that Henry Bowers says in the books and a lot of the stuff that he does, he is explicitly a racist. He is explicitly, targeting people based off of the color of their skin. He's targeting the girl because she's a girl. Like, there's many things that he does that are explicitly about specific things. He targets the architect because he's overweight. He does all these things, right? And he targets these people for a lot of specific things. And he's a bully, and that's what he does. And then what happens in the movie is, instead of Henry Bowers doing that, the movie itself does that. So, like, the architect is no longer the architect, he's the nerdy fat kid. And the nerdy bookworm, all of his stuff is taken from him and given to the new nerdy fat kid, because nerdy fat kid stereotype. And the nerd is now the butcher's son, who has some trauma in his past about a slaughterhouse that has nothing to do, as far as I can tell, with his character in the books, because now he's some weird, because he's black, so he's got to be some poor kid. Explicitly not in the books. And it's just like, so now instead of Henry Bowers being a racist, now the director is? Like, how is it that this book came out in, like, the 70s and it's more progressive than the movie that came out in 2016 or whatever? It's just totally, oh my god, that's game over. No, it's not. That's actually, I'm gonna walk past them. Can you open it?
Help!
I cannot believe I survived that. Whew. Yeah. Well, see, the thing is that you might say that, but there's no way that people avoid a movie where the agency of a man at some point depends on a woman, because nobody talks about it. So nobody has any idea that a movie has a scene like that in it until they see the movie, right? Nobody knows that that is a thing that's going to happen, right? There's no way that you can just avoid arbitrarily that scene because you don't know it's going to happen. And I don't think that people talk about it because it's really sexist if you say it out loud, right? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's the quiet bits. It's the parts that you're not supposed to say out loud when it comes to sexism and racism. And they have a tendency to do interesting things. Oh, so basically what I can do for this section, if I want, is I can basically just trigger them all to come over to here, and then I think I can just fight them in this hallway safely, but I'm not actually positive. Oh, nope, that's not good. That's not what I want at all. This is the opposite of what I wanted. This is the opposite of safe. Oh, well, get wrecked. But yeah, so like as an example, with the It movie, the thing that Hollywood has learned, this is the lesson that Hollywood has learned, is that you can't have any racists in your narrative. But they've also learned that audiences do not give a shit if the narrative itself is implicitly racist at all. Like, they don't care about that. They don't care about, like, stereotyping. What they care about is, you can't have a character on screen call another character a fat slob. But what you can do is have the framing and the narrative itself call that character a fat slob all you want. You can that's a thing that you absolutely can do as much as you want with your narrative. You just can't have it explicit. It has to be implicit. And that's a weird message to have learned, right? And it's not necessarily an incorrect message, because people explicitly do not want to think about their media, right? Like, a lot of people just simply do not want to think about the media that they're consuming in any meaningful way. But while a lot of people don't want to think about the media that they're consuming in any meaningful way, there are actually quite a lot of people who think about it at least a bit. And the issue that they're coming up on is that, like, once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. So once you've seen one of these tropes, right? Once you've seen and heard, if a man is damseled, he will not actually be rescued. He will be given the tools to rescue himself, and if a woman is rescued, she will not. Once you've seen that, and you know that that's going to happen, it tells you what's going to happen in this next scene, and you see it, and you cringe a little, because you already know what's going to happen, right? And once you get, like, behind the veil like that, you can't really unsee it. It's kind of like how once you've heard about the existence of the Bechdel test, it fundamentally changes the way that you look at movies in the future, right? It just, because it's like, oh, that seems remarkably, like, strange that you don't have any female characters talking to any other female characters unless they're talking about a man. That's really weird, right? And then when you're watching a movie, it's like, have any of these women said anything to each other at any point about anyone other than a man? Or anything about other than a man? So, let's see. No breakout hit movies that revise. Well, in part, it just comes down to the fact that the quality of a movie and how much audiences like it has almost nothing to do with how successful it is. How successful a movie is has to do more with franchising and advertising and people's prior biases than it has to do with anything else. And it also has to do with advertising budgets and things like that. So if you make a movie that you think, as an example, like prior to, Captain Marvel, it was the industry standard belief that you could not make a movie that had a female lead. So you couldn't make like a superhero movie with a female lead and have it be successful. And then Captain Marvel blew things up. Prior to, Black Panther, it was the commonly assumed belief for years that you could not have a successful movie that had a black protagonist, period. This is not a superhero specific thing. You could not have a black protagonist and have a successful movie, period, end of story. You're being ludicrous to even try making a movie with a black protagonist, unless that person is Will Smith, right? Because as far as the white people are concerned, Will Smith isn't even really black, right? So, like, you have these very weird, like, tropes that these people come up with that they then just don't test. Right? And they don't test them at all. It's not like, there were all of these, great movies that were part of, like, major series that had black protagonists that were, like, that had mainstream appeal. They simply don't make movies with mainstream appeal that have black protagonists. They just don't do it. So you never see that the trope is incorrect because it's never tested. Let's see. Well, I don't know that feminists are paying that much attention to Disney princess movies, to be honest. Right? Like, people want more movies that are not, just like shitty. Right? And people want movies that have, like, that do not follow the tropes that their sort of progenitors have. But at the same time, nobody's actually really making those movies, right? Like, if you look at the sort of lip service that Disney is paying toward, like, more liberal ideologies in, like, the movies that they're making, like, if, like, the Beauty and the Beast movie that they just came out with is, like, it's kind of, like, just insulting, right? Like, from a practical perspective, that movie is not what anyone has been asking for, right? And so, from a practical perspective, you don't see a lot of movies that are just like, oh, well, let's just have, let's have the fact that the protagonist is female not result in like these ridiculous tropes that we've seen 1,000 times and that aren't terribly interesting and that don't really reflect modern society in any way. Because like most of these tropes in media are just ancient. So like think for a moment about how long it took for movies to recognize that cell phones were a thing, or for TV shows for that matter. Like, if you look at media is so slow to adopt new cultural changes that it's just physically painful. And even if to this day, like, if you listen to, like, a couple of people in the television or movie industry talking about those weird computer things, they have no comprehension of what the internet is or how it behaves or how it's changing society. So they're just getting completely blindsided every time society changes its mind on something because society's on the internet now. You know, society is no longer taking the lead from movies about like where they stand on all sorts of different issues. They're now taking their lead from, you know, what some random influencer on the internet is telling them, right? And the internet is really much more where people are changing their ideas. But the social space of movies needs to change because the social space in reality has changed dramatically, right? So, like, over the course of the last 20 years, you've had massive changes in the way that people treat women in the real world because they can't be as blatantly sexist as they were like 20 years ago. They can't do it because it's going to get them fired. Like the kind of stuff that people would do 20 years ago in a workplace would get you fired today in a second because it's horrifying the things that people used to be doing, right? And people are still doing all sorts of nasty stuff to this day. I'm not saying that they have stopped. What I'm saying is that it is no longer socially acceptable to treat women the same way in society at large. But if you look at the way that women are treated in movies, they haven't actually changed. They've only changed the veneer, right? They've changed the way that you talk about women, but they haven't changed the way that they treat women, that women actually are used in the narrative. And that's the big issue, is that if you have this... So social technology is technology just like any other. And so I think that there's a direct parallel between the way that women are used in Hollywood narratives and the way that phones are used in Hollywood narratives. In the sense that if you look at these old movies with people using their phones, it's like, why do all these people even own landlines? They're so expensive. Why are they making phone calls from a landline? And you'll see people making like long distance phone calls from a landline. And it's like, are you insane? Like, first of all, why do you even have a landline? But second of all, like, why are you making a long-distance phone call from a landline that's going to cost you, like, $10 a minute or some such insanity, instead of making a call from a cell phone like a normal human being, which costs you basically nothing? Like, so you end up with all this weird dynamics there. And I feel like the way that, like, racial issues and the way that gender issues are handled in media is similar, that there's just this massive time lag where it's like, have you guys been around for the last 20 years? Because the last 20 years have been kind of cool and there's been a lot of interesting stuff that's happened in the last 20 years. Maybe you should have been paying attention. But they weren't, because they were too busy, you know, making movies, which is, again, it's a very sort of insular industry that has a lot of serious problems with it. But, because, like, you know, it's hard to take seriously the idea that, you know, we actually give a shit about women when you work in an industry with, like, you know, Weinstein and all these other people who are just like, oh, well, this person is just a freaking monster. And he's been allowed to just do his shit for the last
Oh, no.
3 million years. So no one actually cares about this. Because if they did, then someone would do something about it. It's like, well, actually, this isn't common in most places. In most places, people can't get away with that. It's specific to the dynamics of how, like, the movie industry is it has such huge power imbalances so systematically. Like, there's systematic power imbalances throughout the whole system that are, like, way worse than the power imbalances in most places, right? Like, your boss, if you work in accounting, does not have nearly as much power and influence over you as a movie producer does. A movie producer has so much power and influence, they can just destroy your entire career, right? Your boss can't do that in most industries. Like, they can in certain cases, in certain contexts, but the implicit threat that you are to them is actually much greater than the other way around in that case. And like, from a power differential perspective, it's like, oh, well, if I'm trying to file a sexual harassment claim against, you know, someone as powerful as Weinstein, who's in media and has all the money in the world, there's the risk that basically nobody even finds out about the fact that I filed a complaint in the first place because the media refuses to talk about it. And it goes nowhere because he has all the lawyers in the world, and all it does is result in me getting blacklisted from everything forever, right? That's a legitimate threat when you're trying to go up against someone like that, or someone like if you were. And I'm not trying to like shit talk anyone else that I'm going to be talking about with a hypothetical. If, as an example, Will Smith were to have committed some horrible crime, the amount of influence he has in the industry, as well as out of the industry, right? Not just internal influence, but the amount of influence he has because he has so much money, there's so much power concentration there, that he could legitimately end your frickin' career on a whim, even if you weren't in the media business, right? He could do all sorts of things. Now, again, I'm not trying to suggest that that's what he would do. I'm just pointing him out because he is someone who is like he's an actor as opposed to someone who explicitly has an authority position. He's in a position of as his role in the company, he does not have a position of authority, but as a massive superstar, he has all of this power that most people's bosses just don't have, much less their random coworkers. Anyway, so the movie industry is very far behind in a lot of ways, and part of it is just because it turns out that the people making all these movies are sexual predators. And that's why they make movies that are not, you know, hostile to sexual predators. Right? And that's, you know, there's a lot of reasons for why people make movies. And the reason they make movies the way that they do is because that's how they think. The reason that I haven't killed everything in there, by the way, is I don't really want to kill the slimes. So I think that I've killed all of the like random dudes, but But the slimes downstairs, I'm just not gonna bother. I'm just not gonna bother with. Let's see. Yeah, like that's like crazy, right? Like, and that's, again, another one of those things where you have people in certain industries, particularly entertainment industries, who have the ability to leverage all of this power that, hypothetically speaking, they should not have, right? So, any random person who plays a game should not have the power to, you know, get someone banned arbitrarily, right?
Okay.
And they do, though. And so corruption is endemic all over the place, and it's all terrible. But yeah, I do think that corruptive inefficiencies are much more explanatory of the way that people behave in media than any sort of actual attempts to, like, whatchamacallit. Like, they're not trying to like pacify some theoretical audience. The audience they're trying to pacify is themselves, right? They're trying to make the movies that, you know, the movies people make are fundamentally for them, right? Like, Quentin Tarantino does not think that his audience has a foot fetish. He has a foot fetish, and that's why he puts foot fetish material into his movies, right? The people who, you know, the rich white men who make movies and say, if you make a movie about someone who isn't a rich white man, then no one will watch it, are not saying that because they don't think that women exist, or that minorities exist, or that the international market, which is a huge portion of sales right now, doesn't exist. What they're really saying is, well, I'm a rich white man and I want to make movies about myself. And that's the only type of movie that I want made. Because I'm kind of an asshole. And it turns out that, you know, you do have people who aren't assholes, but they're actually fewer and further between than you'd hope. You'd hope that there would be more people who are not assholes, but life is not as nice as it probably should be. Right, so we've got the first key. And does that open up one of these? I don't think it does, but I guess it does. So that opened here.
Got it.
Got it! There's a bathhouse key.
Aha!
It is very sad that more diverse media doesn't get made, because it has been demonstrated that like people want to watch more interesting stuff, because you have all this stuff that gets made that is not even necessarily great or not problematic, right? Like, I think there's some serious problems with Black Panther as a movie, right? I think that they cast some American to do... I don't remember if he's American, but he's not African, as, like, the lead role. And so you have all these people doing excellent, like, African accents because it turns out they're actually African. And then you have the lead who... I find his... out of all the performances in the movie, the male lead has the worst performance in the entire movie. Everyone else is pretty great. And then you have the male lead, and I just don't like his performance because he's trying to put on an accent that is not his accent, and he works so hard at the accent that he loses a lot of the emotion from his... He feels much more emotionless than the other characters do because of the accent issue. Now, that being said, you know, I'm not exactly the person to be commenting on that. But, like, at its core... like, the movie doesn't have to be perfect to be, like, to benefit from the fact that it's actually not the same shit that we've been making for the last 300 years, that everyone's seen already and doesn't really care about anymore. Let's see.
I don't know.
Your earworms? I am not sure what you mean in this context.
Oh, jeez.
No. Okay. Okay, we did not get ourselves cursed. That's good. not in the green. There's people out here, right? Let's see. Huh. Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't think I've heard it referred to as that before. Because there's so many expressions for things. I still have like people in my friend group who use expressions that I've never heard before. You'd think that, you know, after knowing them for several years, all the expressions that you haven't heard because they're weird British colloquialisms or they're like Singaporean colloquialisms or whatever, or they're Canadian or Australian. I guess part of the problem is that there's just too many different groupings because there's so many colloquialisms from so many different places here. Because like there's the Aussie angle, there's the British angle, there's the you know, American expressions from regions of America that I'm not from or been to. Actually, I guess there's no regions of America that I haven't been to. Now that I think about it, there's certainly states that I haven't been to, but there's not anything that would be large enough to be considered a region that I haven't been to. At some point in my life, I finally got to California for my sister's wedding because her husband is from California, so all his family's there. Meanwhile, my family is like all over the freaking globe, so there's no. It's actually remarkable, like how much certain families just get around, because like my family was like one generation ago not, you know, remotely wealthy, right? Like I'm trying to think of what was my grandfather professional. I don't actually remember what his profession was. I know he was in the Air Force, but he wasn't in the Air Force his whole life, I don't think. So I don't remember, but I don't remember what his job was. Wow, that's really interesting. It's weird the things that you don't actually remember. But yeah, like third generation Irish immigrant. But then like all of their kids just split up all over the country. And then all of their kids split up all over the world. So like all of my cousins are just in all sorts of random locations. And all of my uncles and aunts are like all over America. Though they're starting to consolidate in Florida now, which is kind of funny. Because like my father moved to Florida. And then like we now have like two other like siblings that have moved there as well. Two of his siblings have moved there as well now. Which is kind of funny. It might be like the largest coalition of people in my family in one state since like they got out of college. And I guess not all of them went to college, did they? So I guess since whatever it was, they all started leaving the house. That's funny though. But anyway, so I went to California a few years ago, which was the last place in terms of like sort of region. It was the last region that I hadn't been to. I'm definitely not going to move to Florida when I get old. I can't justify ever moving to America. Right? I could not possibly justify moving to America again because everything from their infrastructure to like their social systems are like 30 to 50 years old at this point. And there's been really no demonstration that America has any interest in actually getting its systems in order. And it's really sad, but like it's easy if you live in America to not realize how far behind America is becoming. And it's easy if you didn't like start in America to not realize that it was not always this far behind. But like universal healthcare is like one of those things where it's like, oh, well, everyone else figured this out 30 years ago and America hasn't figured it out yet. And it's really obvious. It's not a complicated thing, right? Because of the fact that like insurance, mechanically speaking, does not make sense as a privatized industry, because the profit incentive for an insurance company is to minimize their utility as opposed to maximize. So you'd think as a the purpose of an insurance company is to act as a middleman between the, basically, to move money from people who are not sick to people who are sick to pay for things that need to be paid for, right? Because you have no way of knowing who is going to get sick. You have to have this system where and because it's so expensive to get sick, you need to have a system where the money sort of moves from the people who are not sick to the people who are sick. That's the purpose of insurance, right? The issue is that from a monetization perspective, because they don't have a service, they don't actually have a product. So since they don't have a product, the only way for an insurance company to increase its revenue is to increase the ratio of money that they take in to money that they give out in benefits. So their goal as a company is to minimize the amount of benefits they pay out and maximize the amount that you pay in premiums, which is explicitly against the core. It's basically explicitly anti-consumer, right? Their purpose is not anti-consumer, but their profit incentive is explicitly anti-consumer, and there's no way to legislate around that. Right? There's no way to legislate around that. You can legislate in ways that make it so that they can't act in as many anti-consumer ways, but their profit incentive will always be anti-consumer. Whereas if you have a system that is paid for that is non-profit, the purpose of it is just to do the job, right? So as an example, if you're looking at a government, the purpose of a government is to do the things that the country needs to happen. It does not have a profit incentive, right? So the basic gist is that because a government has a vested interest in you, at least in theory, they have a vested interest in you, they don't have a profit incentive to fuck you over. Whereas an insurance company, because profit is the motive as opposed to the public good, they have an incentive directly to screw you over at every turn. So it just doesn't make sense to have private insurance. So insurance is... I'm trying to think of a good example. See, the problem with any sort of comparison with insurance that involves a company that has an actual product is that if you are buying something from a cell phone company, the cell phone company is actually giving you a thing. There is literally no product with an insurance company. They are giving you money at the cost of money, right? They do not have any transformational service. There's nothing to the service except money. There's only money involved. So even in the context of not even a cell phone, which is a discrete object, but the service that a cell phone company is giving you, the cell phone company is giving you an actual service. They have an actual thing that they can reduce costs on, that they can, that they can increase the efficiency on. They can give you a objectively better service for more money, right? Because they have an actual service there. Whereas an insurance company, again, they don't have a service. The service is provided by doctors, right? So the safety against big losses, however, is, again, it's just financial. It's just money. So because of the fact that it's just money for money, there's no mechanism by which they can increase their cut. They can't increase their profitability by increasing efficiency. All they can do is increase the amount of money that they take in without increasing the money that they spend. Because the money is being spent. I mean, there's some overhead costs with insurance, to be sure, and there's a little bit of efficiency that you can get off of those overhead costs. But there's no transformational technological changes that you can make that meaningfully affect the bottom line of your business. The bottom line of your business is almost exclusively based off of how much you rip off the customer. It has nothing to do with the people. This is, again, the profit incentive, right? The profit incentive of insurance is just in a bad position. The position of the profit is bad. And it's just inherent to the system. So insurance companies as a concept make sense if you cannot so as an example, if you don't have a government that is large enough to handle this, and you do not have a local government that has the money to do it. You need a certain amount of money to be able to do it. You need a large enough business, you need a large enough entity to actually be able to handle all of that money. So insurance companies on their face are better than not having insurance at all, right? They came about because the alternative of not having anything is much worse. It's much worse to have nothing. That is initially. The problem is that the way that insurance industries pervert the market can potentially lead to worse results than there would be without insurance at all eventually. Because as an example, if you've ever seen a healthcare bill that you've gotten when you have insurance, what you'll find is that the procedure that you got from your doctor costs $20,000, but the insurance company only pays them $1,500. And you only pay them $100 or $200 in copay. So where is the other $18,000 coming from? And the answer is nowhere. It doesn't come from anywhere. The actual cost of the surgery is a factor of 10 lower than the cost that is written on the piece of paper. But if you are a person who does not have insurance and you have to pay the $20,000. And that is a deal, that's a sort of sweetheart deal that the insurance companies demand. Because one of the things that's important about insurance companies is that unlike a universal healthcare system, an insurance company can and will deny doctors the ability to work within their network, which you can't do with universal healthcare because it's universal, right? There's only one system. So you're either a certified doctor or you are not a certified doctor. It's just that simple. But insurance companies have the ability to tell you, you are not going to be in our system unless you screw over everyone who is not us, right? And that includes other insurance companies, but it particularly targets people who do not have insurance, because the people who don't have insurance have to pay $20,000 for a $2,000 procedure, right? And that's explicitly obvious to anyone who's ever seen a healthcare bill. If you've ever seen a bill from your doctor, you know this company is not paying the amount that the doctor is claiming this procedure costs. They're not even paying within the same order of magnitude of the same cost. So why is that on the bill? And the reason is explicitly to screw over people who are not on their insurance. That's explicitly the reason, right? So let's see. So the basic gist is the industry itself has a profit incentive that is in the wrong place. If you then move it to a publicly funded system that is not profit incentivized, you do not guarantee that you get good results, because you can do the system badly, you can screw things up, but you are not mathematically guaranteed to have bad results in the way that you are with an insurance company. An insurance company is mathematically guaranteed to give you bad results because all of the incentives in the system are for them to pervert the system in such a way that they are minimizing the actual job that they are doing while maximizing the amount of money that you are paying them. And that's a big problem. No, they're not funneling too much money to doctors. That's the key. Because the doctors never get paid that $20,000, even if you as a private citizen are charged the $20,000, you can't afford it. So you just go bankrupt. But the doctor doesn't get that money anyway, because you don't have it. You don't have the money to pay them. The only people that have the money to pay the trumped up bills are people that will not pay those trumped up bills. The other people just go bankrupt. And so what ends up happening is it ends up being this kind of weird protection racket where you have to have insurance, because if you don't have insurance, then you're paying orders of magnitude more because there's a protection racket going on. And if you're not one of the kids, then you don't get to anything. Let's see. So, well, no, because the people with no money who go bankrupt, which has its own like host of issues that are associated with it if you aren't Donald Trump. But there are a lot of problems with going bankrupt, and going bankrupt is not a good thing to have happen to you, right? If you do not have a family name to back up, if you are not a member of the indentured nobility, it is very bad for you to go bankrupt. It is not a good way to be. So you definitely don't want to go bankrupt if you can avoid it. But nobody really benefits from the system, aside from the people who are in the middle of the system, who do not provide any health care and are not receiving health care, but who are receiving the majority of the money from the industry. Right? The majority of the profit of the medical industry goes to a company that does not, or goes to companies, that is, that are not actually directly related to healthcare. Right? They're literally just a middleman that doesn't have a service. Right? They're just there to make it so that people don't go bankrupt, but then people keep going bankrupt because of them. And people get bankrupted by healthcare costs even with insurance. But again, it just comes down to the prioritization system that the companies have, right? And so because of their prioritization system when it comes to finances, and bear in mind, there's nothing wrong with having a profit incentive. Capitalism runs on the concept of profit incentives. But the key is that if your profit incentive is directly anti-consumer, and there's no way for you to make more money without screwing over your customers, that is an example of an industry that does not make sense to be run capitalistically, because you can't run it well capitalistically, right? The efficiencies that you get out of capitalism come from industries where innovation is important, right? Where you can develop a better product, and that better product does the thing. So as an example, if you look at, what's the word? Another example of a system that's hard, it's not impossible, don't get me wrong, it's not impossible by any stretch of the imagination because it's an actual service, but that's hard to actually get good results out of capitalistically. Like if you go with a pure capitalistic approach and you don't regulate them, phone companies and internet companies are another good example. Because the costs to get into the system, to buy into this this market, are so high that, functionally speaking, it is more sensible to just have a localized monopoly and not even try to compete with your so-called competitors. And that's the system that you have in most of America, which is why most of America has such trash internet, including areas that are quite wealthy that should have better internet, right? So, like, if you have a system like that, you have to basically incentivize in ways that are that allow for companies to compete while simultaneously giving them... Basically, you need to incentivize competition. Right, that's what needs to happen in order to make a phone company system work. You have to actually directly incentivize people to compete with each other, which doesn't happen naturally. You need a lot of regulations in place to actually get phone companies to compete, rather than just carve out their own niche. And like, you might say you want capitalistic phone companies, but all the places that have government-run systems or government-regulated systems have better internet than you have, so it's just the facts. It just works better. You get better, cheaper internet if the government intervenes and says, okay, if you put down line, everybody gets to use it. and you have to compete with people on that line that you put down. Because it sounds really shitty to the person that put down all that line, but if you have a profit incentive for them to put down the line in the first place, then you have a profit incentive to put down the line, and then if they have to follow up by having to compete with other people, you have a profit incentive to actually have a good service once you put the line in place.
I don't know.
Whereas if you do, as an example, if you don't put the profit incentive into competition because nobody else can use your line, so nobody else is going to bother putting their own line, right? If you don't have a profit incentive for competition, you end up with Comcast, because Comcast doesn't have any competition, so they're trash. They're just objectively terrible as a company. They don't give a crap about their consumers, and they don't actually have any reason to give a crap about them because they don't have any competition. But if you don't put a profit incentive to put the line down in the first place, then obviously people are just not going to put it down any line. So what system you end up there is you end up with the system where if you go to anywhere that's even remotely rural in the United States, you can't get any decent anything. You can't get decent cell phone coverage. You can't get decent internet. You can't get any of the modern technologies that the rest of the world takes for granted because you live in the suburbs and it's too expensive and nobody gives a shit enough to actually pay for it. Right? Well, that's the thing, is that if you look at phone companies specifically, phone companies actually have a lot of regulation on them that do not exist for other telecommunications companies. So if you look at internet doesn't work as well as phones do in America because the phones were all regulated and there's competition for phone companies. But if you look at cell phone coverage gets really kind of wonky and awkward, right? And the reason is because different places have different coverage, which is not really something that should be a thing, because everyone should have the same access to the same resources there. But it's not considered to be infrastructure, and since it's not considered to be infrastructure, it's not regulated the same way, and you have these weird, like, pseudo monopolies. But with regards to internet, you have much more explicit, like, oligopolies form because of the fact that you have a company who says, well, I won't compete with you in this region if you don't compete with me in this other region. And that's great for their bottom line because it means that they don't have any competition, but it's not great for anyone else. Singapore is... That's a good question. We don't have any rural sections of Singapore. There's no place in Singapore that would be defined as rural. Absolutely not. South Korea does, though. South Korea does have rural areas. And they seem to do fine. Right? Because they actually care about it and they actually put the incentives in to make sure that it actually happens. But again, this stuff isn't terribly complicated. You just have to look at the infrastructure that's actually properly regulated, and then look at the infrastructure that is not regulated. And the infrastructure that's regulated, like electricity, works way better than the infrastructure that isn't regulated, like internet access. Because you have a lot of places in America that don't even have internet access. There's a few places that don't have whatchamacallit. There's a few places that don't have electricity either. But I'm pretty sure, I think that that's much more rare. I think it's northeast, west-south or something. It's not southwest, is it? Yeah, it's west-south. Done.
Got it. I don't know.
This is the bathhouse key that we were missing.
Aha! Aha! Aha!
Oh, shit. Okay, well, we have one curse, but that's okay, because we can cure one curse. I shouldn't have done that with her. I should have done it with somebody else. Okay, mistakes were made, though. I came to the wrong place. Oh, remove curse is only 5! I thought it was 10. Whoops, it's heroism that's 10. Okay, well, We're just gonna wait for them all to consolidate where we want them, and then we'll move on. But you do have a lot of things where it's just like there's people are clearly not capitalisming right. One of the things that's most important about capitalism is regulation is an important aspect of capitalism. If you don't have regulation and all you have is whoever has the most money makes the rules, that's not capitalism, that's feudalism. Right? Feudalism is where the person with all the money gets to make all the decisions. Or rather, you get to make the decisions based off of the percentage of wealth that you have, right? So the nobility obviously got to make decisions in the old systems as well. They just didn't have as much power as the sovereign, right? Though in many cases, that's actually not the case. In many cases back in the day, if you look at a lot of feudal architectures, in many cases the nobles actually had more power than the monarch does, because the monarch is so reliant on the nobles that depending on the specifics of who has what power at what time and what consolidation of wealth has happened. Okay, this is a really bad position to fight these guys, actually. This is nothing like the other ones. So from here, I think I'll be safe to take out that Skeleton Lord. I just want to take out the Skeleton Lord on this side before I risk getting hit, because I can afford to lose a little bit of mana to this, but I can't afford to lose too much. Because we have a lot of mana we're going to be going through once we get into the big chamber up ahead. Let's see here.
Got another one.
So I guess I should just stand here. I stand directly in the center? Is that the best place? Yes. Okay, I think standing directly in the center and just looking to the left or right is probably better. Okay, okay.
Got another one.
Okay. So I took out all the Skeleton Lords, so we can just dive over here. We take a little bit of damage, but it's fine. Okay, that sucks though. Okay, we're fine. Okay. Can't. Oh, right, it's the other person. Okay. The person who's cursed. We don't want them. There we go. If you catch it quickly enough, even with one skill, you can still cure it. It's just that you have to be really fast. And you run the risk of completely wasting your mana on something that you're not even going to get. Well, that was really special. Walk straight into the bolt. Whoop. Whoop. Dion bar. Heal it up. Whoa, fatal. Ooh, Sometimes you do stupid things and you don't get punished, and it's great. There we go. So there's at least 2. And you can actually hear which direction it's coming from, which is nice. You can hear the correct direction. There we go. These spiders are not nearly as terrifying now that I have like 3 people that can cure poison. It's such a huge like weight off my shoulders. Like I'm probably not gonna get poisoned, but even if I do, it's fine. Like just fighting things that don't have a game over condition applied is it's just so nice. It's so good. Is good. Got some more spiders over here. Got a lot more spiders over here. If I don't do something about this, I'm gonna get poisoned. Because there's just way too many of them. If I do something about it, I just mean kite efficiently instead of wastefully. Because it turns out. I have enough accuracy to consistently hit them now, so it's actually really easy to do a proper kite for these. So rather than trying to just one-shot an enemy, well not one-shot, but rather than trying to kill outright one of these enemies, I can just hit it and hit stun it, and I know that if I just attack it once, I'm most likely going to hit stun it, which allows me to hit stun 4 separate enemies with any given like iteration. So whoopsies, I did not notice that thing. I actually don't know how much HP these have, so I think that they take 2 hits to kill. But they might be one-shottable. I thought I saw them, but I did not. Alright, any other spiders in here? I don't think so. Oh, get wrecked. So that guy is going to hit me every time I come at him. He has a fast enough projectile that you can't dodge it in melee range. But what I can do if I want, and this is what I should do, is I should be burning through the acolytes first. Because they hit pretty similarly to the other guy. Oh shit. Oh man. That elevation difference. Bastard.
Oh, alright, we got him.
Alright, so that's all of them toasted. Do I want to just pop out and go get my stuff? That's +1. Is this also magical? Yes. Perfect. So we now have magic resistance on every character. That might seem like it doesn't make that big a difference, but what it means is that when I do start accumulating a luck bonus to my resists, it will actually apply. to magic. The thing with resists in this game is that luck gives you a bonus to your resists, but it only gives you a bonus to the resists that you have that have a positive value already. You have to already have some resistance to get the bonus. So going from having, 0 to having 1 could be going from 0 to having like 7, depending on what you've got. So if you've got Day of the Gods active, then, not that like it really matters from a practical perspective. I'm not going to have that much luck until, she has enough luck that it's useful for her, but like these people have a penalty, so they're probably not even getting any benefit out of that right this second. And by the time I get that, I'd probably also have Day of Protection. Oh, but Day of Protection is going to be that's in a different classification entirely. So I don't know if I'll necessarily even be getting it at the same time. At any rate, it's all good. So what am I doing? Yes, going through the teleporter and healing myself up. Let's get that done. Okay, so yes. So that just saves me a bit of mana. It's not a huge deal, but it could potentially be it could potentially, save me quite a bit, because I do have curses to deal with for a long time, and I want to make sure that I did not get any spirit magic increases here.
Spirit, the magic of life.
Angel, healing touch, anything useful. Could legendary.
Mind, the magic of knowledge. Body, the magic of healing.
I think I have Cure Wounds on everybody already. I think I have Cure Poison on everybody as well. Do I need speed? I don't think I do. It costs too much to be worth casting, to be honest. It's just too expensive.
I don't know.
Do I want to pump Identify so that I can identify these gauntlets? Those are going to be a pretty big upgrade. Yes.
This ought to do.
That's a pretty sizable upgrade, so... Give that to her. Boom. Give this to her. And does she even have gauntlets? Nope. Okay, so 36, 34, and 60. Cha-ching. Got all the AC going up here. So, interestingly enough, these two have more HP than choose. That's a little surprising. Alright. So, we're continuing back to the other place. Get that done. Let's see how things go tonight. I think we will probably level up again by the time we get out of this dungeon. Certainly hope so. I don't get a lot of experience on Mist. Mist has so little experience. And I do have concerns about Nalira.
Ha! Gotta.
Okay. The last time I did this, I cleared more of Durlag. Or not Durlag's. Durlag's Tower is a totally different game. I cleared more of Garrett's Forge than I have this time. So I'm not entirely sure that I have enough experience. I think I do. But we'll find out. so I can identify the
This
plus
ought to
strings
do.
now.
Aha!
Light.
I don't know.
I guess. Let's see. Does anybody else have? No, nobody else has enough that it would give them positive.
I don't know. I don't
Oh,
know.
that's right. Anything else? I think we are set. Angering all the spiders. And then we shall slay all who dare to oppose us. A little bit expensive there, unfortunately. But I do have two different people who can do it, so. And they both have meditation. I'm actually really happy that I got meditation on two characters. I feel this dual druid thing is really paying off for me. It's very, very handy. Oh, hello.
Got another one.
So, single poison effect.
Oh!
Okay, I should not be continuing to fight poison. It might seem like fighting poisoned makes sense when you're fighting the poisoned enemy, or the poisoning enemies. The issue is that because you're less likely to hit the enemies, it doesn't actually result in having less overall chance of getting poisoned, even though it, you know, hypothetically should. Oh shit! I did not get cure poison on her. Oh, Servok. That's a problem. I thought that I had picked that up on both of them, but I did not do it. Okay, so mistakes were made. So I actually only have 4 cure poisons left. No, I only have 3 cure poisons left. Jeez. Do I even want to keep fighting bugs? These kinds of resources left. So first of all, bless. Nailed it. 2 wall. Hello, friend. Oh, jeez.
That was
Slightly too far away. Okay.
got it.
Okay, treasure room key, all set. Oh, geez, did I just kill myself? I just killed myself. Okay, well done. That was silly. I legitimately just pinned myself in a corner and killed myself. Oopsie doopsie. You know what we're gonna do? We're just gonna aggro some of them instead of aggroing the whole pack for no reason. It's too far away. It actually might be too far away to do this. Okay. So. Oh shit, I did not think about the fact that I could that was, oh, well that was bad. It was about as bad as it's bad.
Ha, got it.
Okay. There we go. So they're gonna be buried in these corners here. Whoa. All set. So how are we doing? So it's now 8:51. Do we want to keep going here? We've gotten all of these center areas cleared out. And the question is, do I want to go into the big center chamber with my current resources? And honestly, I don't think I do. I don't think it's a good idea to go in there. Okay, I already turned in... Did I turn in that guy's quest? I think I did. Yeah, I should have. Because I don't have it in my inventory anymore. So we've finished the Dragoon Stronghold. We can go, I guess, to Corligan's estate and start pumping through there. Okay. In we
Where are
go.
we?
So we're we're gonna get it started in here. That open thing behind me? Did not. Okay, fine. Hey, friends.
Problem.
Fail, fail, fail. There is no escape for you that way, friend. Yes, you should have gone the other way. Oh, jeez! I don't like specters. Mommy! Please go!
Got it.
Okay. Alright, we're all fine. Everything's fine. Why wouldn't everything be fine with AC values through the frickin' roof? Boy, howdy. Do we want to pump my disarm more? I guess I should just leave my disarm until I trigger a chest. Something explode in my face. Okay, so this door will not open. My God. We're definitely doing some shenanigans here. Oh shit, that's what I wanted. It's not all what I wanted, but it's okay. So we still have another Spectre over there. I'm actually tempted to just go outside and heal myself. Bum, bum, ba-da, bum, bum, ba-da-da. Okay, that's a lot of rings that we found.
I don't know.
Oh, hello. That gives a lot of value.
I don't know.
So that makes one more person have a positive luck value instead of negative.
Aha! I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
I guess I'll pull those things. I didn't hear her make her.
I don't know. Aha!
Is enchant item available in Mist? I think it actually is. I think it's in Mist. We are going to pop out. Are you at 10 below? Yes.
Come on, let's get out of
So we're
here.
going to pop out of here just because it's not going to reset the positioning on anything. We're going to go heal up at this thing. Get that done. And it's going to be a good time. So we should be able to get pretty far in this place without too much trouble, but I don't know how effectively we're going to be able to get through the whole thing in one trip. I think we're probably going to have to... We should be able to. We only need 4,000 XP. So I think that we should be able to hypothetically do that. But these two places are the two hardest areas here, just from a perspective of the sheer volume of damage that's likely to be coming out. The ghosts, I don't think the tier 1 ghosts, but the higher tier ghosts have damage resistance to physical, which certainly does not help matters. And there's the curses that you have to deal with, and all the other nastiness that's associated with this place. And I think these things actually have the ability to knock you out unconscious straight out. I think that's what the highest tier is. Oh, okay. Where are you at, friend? It's like, I know you're here. Save the spirits down. And that is aged up, I believe. Yep. So the mid-tier ones increase your age. These really do just pop out at you. This is perfect for Halloween. Yay! Yay, punchy time. Kosha. We're all fine. We're all fine. Why would it be fine? Everything's all great. Alright, perfect. So we've now got one set. Good position. Dope. Fail. For those wondering why I haven't been casting Precision, it's because I already have the accuracy bonus from the potions, and there's significant diminishing returns. The reason I don't have Bless is because this is not the worst part of this place, and I'm concerned that if I start throwing out Blesses now, it's going to be... You know, I just realized that I have a ton of mana on her that I'm not spending, but she has literally nothing better to do with her mana. I should have given her Bless. Just sitting on rank 1 Bless, she could cast that. That's 40 hours of Bless. If I just give her Bless at rank 1, because it lasts for like an hour and 5 minutes or something each. That would have been very sensible. I should do that next time. Eight. Aha! Fail. Fail. Double fail. Triple fail. Ultra fail. Nope. I've got a lot of friends and we're gonna murder you. A lot of friends and it's time to die.
That was too
Bah.
easy.
Does fear drop? I think it drops accuracy, right? It does drop accuracy, so it might... Oh, it increases might. It doesn't increase might by a lot, but it does increase might. Okay.
Ah.
Just crap-tacular armor. And in here, I think we have ghosts.
Oh! I need help.
Oh shit! Oh, shizzle fizz. Get wrecked. Get yon recketed. Oh, jeez. Okay, was not paying enough attention. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're actually just going to leave immediately. Because we have so many people at low HP that we can just heal up at the thing and get a huge amount of extra efficiency. So we have 5 ticks from her, 3, 2. This actually might drain it completely, which would be nice. Because once you've drained a resource, you're like, okay, well, I don't have to worry about that anymore. Now I can just focus on what's in front of me. That's not too bad. Shit, that was close. Aha! We cleared out this resource. Nice. Okay. Did we get the... No, we didn't. So that puts her up to 26. Not too shabby. So she still has decent accuracy, and she's got a pretty sizable speed boost to give her a bit of extra AC. The AC bonus isn't that important. Not at this point. Fighting the skeletons and stuff like that, they, I think, are a little too high level for that to be that relevant. But I think actually I'm probably going to just end things here for right now. I have some stuff that I need to do, and I'm actually very hungry. I didn't have breakfast, and I just started the stream really early instead of having breakfast, which was... that was a mistake. I should have eaten breakfast. So I think I'm going to end things here for now. Next time we will finish up in Corligan's estate, and we will head on to Mist. Once I've gotten to Mist, I think I'll have enough material to figure out how I want to handle certain things. But that's going to be it for today, so thank you for watching. It has been a pleasure streaming for you today, and I hope to see y'all again next time, when I will probably not be starting at 6 o'clock in the morning. Later,